wife or husband was is gone. Learning to live with it. Come on. We're dying with it because he's never said, he said it's dangerous.
Hell
When's
yeah.
the last time? Is it really dangerous still? Are we
Hell
dangerous?
yeah.
You tell the people it's dangerous now? What should they do about the danger? And you say, I take no responsibility.
Let me talk about your two.
Excuse me, I
very
take full responsibility.
No, you don't, dickhead.
It's not my fault that he came here. It's China's fault. And you know what? It's not Joe's fault that he came here either.
It's your fault.
China's
You did
fault.
nothing
They kept it from
to
going into
address
the
it.
rest of China for the most part, but they didn't keep it from coming out to the world, including Europe and ourselves.
Vice President Biden.
Fact is that when we knew it was coming, when it hit, what happened? What did the president say? He said, don't worry. It's going to go away. Be gone by Easter. Don't worry. The warm weather. Don't worry. Maybe inject bleach. He said he was kidding when he said that, but a lot of people thought it was serious. A whole range of things the president has said, even today.
Look at that
he
asshole.
thinks
Look at his
we are
face.
in control. We're about to lose 200,000 more people.
President Trump.
Look, perhaps just to finish this, I was kidding on that.
He
but
did
just
say
to
it was a
finish this,
hoax. He's full of shit.
When I closed, he said I shouldn't have closed. Dancing on the streets in Chinatown in San Francisco. But when I closed, he said, this is a terrible thing. You're xenophobic. I think he called me racist even. And because I was closing it to China. Now he says I should have closed it earlier. It just, Joe, it doesn't work.
I didn't say either of those things.
You
I didn't say
certainly
should have
did.
called
You
Thursday,
certainly
and
did.
I talked about his xenophobia in a different context. It wasn't about closing the border to Chinese coming to the United States.
All right, I want to talk about both of your different strategies to handling
He thought
this.
I shouldn't have closed the border.
Well, let's.
That's obvious.
That's bullshit.
Is that? Do you want
That's
to
very
respond to that
obviously
quickly, Vice
bullshit.
President Biden? Okay. Let's talk about.
My
your
man said no. He didn't even want to
strategies
respond to
for
that.
Dealing with this, Mr. Vice President, you suggested you would support new shutdowns if scientists recommended it. What do you say to Americans who are fearful that the cost of shutdowns, the impact on the economy, the higher rates of hunger, depression, domestic and substance abuse outweighs the risk of
Joe Biden
exposure
does
to
not want to be
virus?
there.
What I would say is I'm going to shut down the virus, not the country. It's his ineptitude that caused the country to have to shut down in large part.
Yep.
Why businesses have gone under, why
Yep.
schools are closed, why
Yep.
so many people have lost their living, and why they're concerned. Those other concerns are real. That's why he should have been, instead of in a sand trap in his golf course, he should have been negotiating with Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats and Republicans about what to do about the acts they were passing
Oh my
for
God,
billions
he
of
is
dollars
clapping
to make sure
Trump's
people
cheeks
had the
right now. He has no answer
But
for
you
any of
haven't
this.
ruled out more shutdowns.
Well, no, I'm not shutting down the name, but there are, look, you need standards. The standard is if you have a reproduction rate in a community that's above a certain level, everybody says, slow up, more social distancing, do not open bars and do not open gymnasiums, do not open until you get this under control.
Right.
Under more control. But when you do open, give the people the capacity to be able to open and have the capacity to do it safely. For example, schools.
He's
they need
looking a
lot
little
of
bit
money
less
to open.
orange
They
than
need to
normal
deal with
today, at least.
ventilation systems. They need to deal with smaller classes, more teachers, more pods. And he's refused to support that money, or at least up to now.
Let's talk about schools. President
Well,
Trump,
I
can you
think we have to respond, if I might.
please, and then I have a follow-up.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Look, all he does is talk about shutdowns, but forget about him. His Democrat governors, Cuomo in New York, you look at what's going on in California, you look at Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Democrats all, they're shut down so tight.
Maryland has a
Dying.
Republican
They're
governor,
dying.
just so everyone
And he
knows.
supports all these people. All he talks about is shutdowns. No, we're not going to shut down, and we have to open our schools. And it's like, as an example, I have a young son. He also tested positive. By the time I spoke to the doctor the second time, he was fine. It just went away. Young people, I guess it's their immune system.
Let me follow up with you,
He's
President
fucking
Trump.
stupid.
You've demanded schools open in person and insist they can do it safely. But just yesterday, Boston became the latest city to move its public school system entirely online after a coronavirus spike. What is your message to parents who worry that sending their children to school will endanger not only their kids, but also their teachers and families?
I want to open the schools. The transmittal rate to the teachers is very small.
He's
But
stupid.
I want to open the schools. We have to open our country. We're not going to have a country.
He's stupid.
You can't do
I-
this.
how can
We
you
can't
say
keep
this?
This country closed. This is a massive.
This is
country with a
insane.
massive economy.
People are going to
losing their
die.
jobs. They're committing suicide. There's depression, alcohol, drugs at a level that nobody's ever seen before.
He's
There's
stupid.
abuse, tremendous abuse.
We're so
We
fucked.
have
You're
to
right,
open
Human
our
Road Kill.
country.
We're so
You know,
fucked.
I've said it
Because he's about to
often,
win
the
again.
cure
That's the
cannot
crazy
be
thing.
worse than the problem itself.
Vice
And that's
President.
what's happening. and he wants to close down. He'll close down the country if one person in our massive bureaucracy
Look
says
how
we
funny
should
he
close
thinks
it
it is.
down.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Simply not true. We ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We ought to be able to safely open, but would they need resources to open? You need to be able to, for example, if you're going to open a business, have social distancing within the business. You need to have,
Thanks,
if you have a
Balenciaga
restaurant,
barf
you need
bag.
to have plexiglass dividers so people cannot infect one another.
That's true,
You need to be in a position
Glider
where you
Gaming.
can
The
take
Electoral College needs to be
testing
abolished.
rapidly and know whether a person is in fact infected.
But
You
at the
need to be
same
able to
time,
trace. You need to be able to provide
like
them
half of the
all
country's
the
population
resources
lives in
needed
like
to
6
do
cities.
this.
It's kind of
And that is
absurd.
not inconsistent with saying that what we're going to make sure that we open safely. And by the way, all you teachers out there, not that many of you are going to die, so don't worry about it. Come on.
President Trump, let me follow up with you quickly.
By the way, I
on-
will say this. If you go and look at what's happened to New York, it's a ghost town. It's a ghost town. And when you
'Cause
talk about
everybody's fucking
plexiglass,
dead
these
of
are
COVID,
restaurants that are
dummy.
dying.
Oh,
These
my
are
God.
businesses with no money. Putting up plexiglass is unbelievably
Cemetery
expensive,
Roadkill
and
2020.
it's not the answer. I mean, you're going to sit there in a cubicle wrapped around with plastic. These are businesses that are dying, Joe. You can't do that to people. You
But you
just
can-
can't. Take a look at New York and what's happened to my wonderful city for so many years. I loved it. It was vibrant. It's dying. Everyone's leaving New York.
Take a look
Vice
at what
President
New
Biden.
York has done in terms of turning the curve down in terms of the number of people dying. And I don't look at this in terms of the way he does. Blue states and red states. They're all the United States. And look at the states that are having such a spike in the coronavirus. They're the red states. They're the states in the Midwest. They're the states in the upper Midwest. That's where the spike is occurring significantly. But they're all Americans. They're all Americans. And what we have to do is say, where these
I'm gonna
masks,
allow
number
that.
one, make sure we get the help that the businesses
I don't know what you
need,
meant
that
by
the
fucking
money's
Jews, but
already been passed to do that.
I hope
It's been
it
out
wasn't
there
negative.
since the beginning of the summer, and nothing's happened.
President, New York has lost more than 40,000 people, 11,000 people in nursing homes.
President Trump, what
When you
about-
say spike, take a look at what's happening in Pennsylvania, where they've had it closed. Take a look at what's happening with your friend in Michigan, where her husband's the only one allowed to do anything. It's been like a prison. Now it was just ruled unconstitutional. Take a look at North Carolina. They're having spikes, and they've been closed, and they're getting killed financially. We can't let that happen, Joe. You can't let that happen. We have to open up, and we understand the disease. We have to protect our seniors. We have to protect our elderly. We have to protect especially our seniors with heart problems and diabetes problems, and we will protect them. We have the best testing in the world by far. That's why we have so many cases.
Let me follow up with you
He's
before
stupid.
we move on to our
We have
next section.
200,000
President Trump,
more
this week you called
deaths.
Dr. Anthony Fauci the
He
nation's
keeps
best
repeating
known
that
infectious
talking
disease
point. Is the
expert,
test
quote,
fucking killing
"a
people? Like,
disaster,"
come
and
on, dude.
described him and other medical experts as, quote, idiots. If you're not listening to them, who are you?
But he did say, don't wear masks. He did
The
say,
reason why he said that
as
is
you
so that
know,
masks
this
wouldn't
is
sell
not
out
going to
and that
be a
medical
problem.
care officials could
I
get
think
to
he's a
masks
Democrat,
before
but
the
that's
public
okay.
could.
He said this is not going to be a problem. We are not going to have a problem at all. When Joe says that, I said, Anthony Fauci said, and others, and many others, and I'm not knocking him a lot. Nobody knew. Look, nobody knew what this thing was. Nobody knew where it was coming from, what it was. We've learned a lot. But Anthony said, don't wear masks. Now he wants to wear masks. Anthony also said, if you look back, exact words, here's his exact words. This is no problem. This is going to go away soon. So he's allowed to make mistakes. He happens to be a good person.
Vice President Biden, your response quickly, and then we're going to move on to the next
This
section.
man is like
Response
so
is
full of
that
shit.
Think about what the president knew in January and didn't tell the American people. He was
If
told
I knew
this
about
was a
COVID in
serious
November of
virus
last
spreading
year,
in
the
air,
president definitely
and it was
fucking
much
knew.
much worse than the flu. He went on record and said to one of your colleagues, recorded, that in fact he knew how dangerous it was, but he didn't want to tell us. He didn't want to tell us because he didn't want us to panic. He didn't want us. Americans don't panic. He panicked. But
Right.
guess what? In the meantime, we found out in the New York Times the other day that in fact his folks went to Wall Street and said this is a really dangerous thing. And a memo out of that meeting, not from his administration, but from some of the brokers, said sell short because we got to get moving. It's a dangerous problem.
Well, this is
I'm going to
one
give you
this
30
is one I
seconds
have
to
a-
respond, and then we're
the
going
Wall
to
Street
move
one,
on.
I don't know. Somebody went to Wall Street. You're the one that takes all the money from Wall Street. I don't take it.
I
Joe,
have-
you
What?
raised a lot of money, tremendous amounts of money. And every time you raise money, deals are made, Joe. I could raise so much more money. As president and as somebody that knows most of those people, I could call the heads of Wall Street, the heads of every company in America. I would blow away every record, but I don't want to do that because it puts me in a bad position. And then you bring up Wall Street. You shouldn't be bringing up Wall Street because you're the one that takes the money from Wall Street, not me. I could blow away your records that, like you wouldn't believe. We don't need money. We have plenty of money. In fact, we beat Hillary Clinton with a tiny fraction of the money that she was able to.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to move
Don't tell
on.
me about Wall Street.
Average contribution, $43.
All right, we're going to move on to our next section, which is national security. And I do want to start with the security of our elections and some breaking news from overnight.
This
Just
man,
last
Joe
night,
Biden, is just
Trump intelligence
duffing him with
officials confirmed
factuals.
again that both Russia and Iran are working to influence this election. Both countries have obtained U.S. voter registration information, these officials say, and Iran sent intimidating messages to Florida voters. This question goes to you, Mr. Vice President. What would you do to put an end to this threat? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
I made it clear, and I ask everyone else to take the pledge. I made it clear that any country, no matter who it is, that interferes in American elections will pay a price. They will pay a price. And it's been overwhelmingly clear this election, I won't even get into the last one, this election, that Russia has been involved, China has been involved to some degree,
I don't like the sound of
and now
this.
we learned that Iran is involved. They
I don't
will
like the sound
pay
of
a
this.
price if I'm elected. They're interfering with American sovereignty. That's what's going on right now. They're interfering with American sovereignty. And to the best of
I don't
my
like the sound
knowledge,
of
I
that.
don't think the president said anything to Putin about it. I don't think he's talking to him a lot. I don't think he said a word. I don't know why he hadn't said a word to Putin about it. And I don't know what he has recently said, if anything, to the Iranians. My guess is he'd probably be more outspoken with regard to the Iranians. But the point is this, folks. We are in a situation where we have foreign countries trying to interfere in the outcome of our election. His own national security advisor told him that what is happening with his buddy, well, I shouldn't, oh, I will. His buddy, Rudy Giuliani, he's being used as a Russian pawn. He's being fed information that is Russian, that is not true. And then what happens? Nothing happens. And then you find out that everything that's going on here about Russia is wanting to make sure that I do not get elected the next president of the United States because they know I know them and they know me. I don't understand why this president is unwilling to take on Putin when he's actually paying bounties to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan, when he's engaged in activities that are trying to destabilize
Right, Kuma.
all of. Why is
To
it
be
that
fair,
being
though,
done?
Trump is just that
Any
fucking
country that
stupid.
interferes
A
with
lot of
us
this stuff
will,
isn't
in
even
fact,
really
pay
lies
a price
because
they're affecting
you have
our
to know it's
sovereignty.
not true for it to be a lie.
President Trump, same question to you. Let me ask the question. You're going to have 2 minutes to respond. For 2 elections in a row now, there has been substantial interference from foreign adversaries. What would you do in your next term to put an end to this? 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Well, let me respond to the first part as Joe answered. Joe got $3.5 million from Russia, and it came through Putin because he was very friendly with the former mayor of Moscow, and it was the mayor of Moscow's wife. And you got $3.5 million. Your family got $3.5 million, and you know, someday you're going to have to explain why did you get 3.5. I never got any money from Russia. I don't get money from Russia.
Both
Now,
of those
about
statements are
your
false.
Thing last night, I knew all about that, and through John, John Ratcliffe, who is fantastic, DNI, he said the one thing that's common to both of them, they both want you to lose because there has been nobody tougher to Russia. Between the sanctions, nobody tougher than me on Russia. Between the sanctions, between all of what I've done with NATO. You know,
Yeah,
I've got
Trump
the NATO
has Chinese
countries to
bank
put up
accounts.
An extra $130 billion going to $420
The Chinese
billion
economy is
a
officially
year.
the largest
That's
economy
to
in the
guard
world
against
now. They've
Russia.
surpassed
I
America.
sold, while he was selling pillows and sheets, I sold tank busters to Ukraine. There has been nobody tougher on Russia than Donald Trump. And I'll tell you, they were so bad. They took over the submarine port. You remember that very well. During your term, during you and Barack Obama, they took over a big part of what should have been Ukraine. You handed it to them, but you were getting a lot of money from Russia. They were paying you a lot of money, and they probably still are. But now, with what
Xi
came out
Jinping? No,
today,
I don't think
it's
Xi
even
Jinping.
worse.
So,
all of the emails.
so the thing
you know,
is,
the horrible emails of the kind of
Russia
money that
and
you were
China
raking
both
in,
know
you and your
that
family.
Trump is a fucking
And you were
moron,
vice
and they could do
president
whatever
when
they
some
want
of
as
this
long
was
as he's
happening.
president.
And it should have never
Joe Biden
happened.
is also a
And I think
moron,
you
but
owe
he's a
an
neo-lib
explanation to the
moron.
American
So
people.
he's
Why
less
is it-
motivated
somebody
by
just had a
profit
news
than he
conference a
is
little while ago who was essentially
Trump.
supposed to work with you and your family. But what he said was damning. And regardless of me, I think you have to clean it up and talk to the American people. Maybe you can do it right now.
Vice President Biden, you may respond.
Okay,
30
straight
seconds.
here.
And then I do want to follow up on the election.
Oh yeah, we
I
know
have
that
not
about Republicans,
taken a penny
Kuma.
from
Republicans
any
are brain
foreign
dead.
source
They
ever
don't care
in
about
my
any of
life.
this.
We
As
learned
long as you
this
have the
president
14 words
paid
somewhere in your
50
platform,
times
they're
the
voting
tax
for you.
in China, has a secret bank account with China, does business in China, and in fact is talking about me taking money. I have not taken a single penny from any country whatsoever, ever. Number one. Number two, this is a president, I have released all of my tax returns. 22 years. Go look at them. 22 years of my tax return. You have not released a single solitary year of your
Oof.
tax
Hit him where it
return.
hurts.
What are you hiding?
Hit him where it
Why
hurts.
are you unwilling? The foreign countries are paying you a lot. Russia's paying you a lot. China's paying you a lot.
He has
And your
Chinese bank
hotels and all
accounts.
your businesses all around the country, all around the world. And China's building a new road to a new a golf course you have overseas. So what's going on here? Why don't release your tax return or stop talking about corruption?
President Trump, your response.
First of all, I called my accountants under audit. I'm going to release them as soon as we can. I want to do it, and it'll show how successful.
He keeps repeating that shit.
Company is, but much more importantly than that, people were saying $750. I asked them a week ago. I said, "What did I pay?" They said, "Sir, you prepaid tens of millions of dollars." I prepaid my tax, tens over the last number of years. Tens of
Look at
millions
look
of
at Joe.
dollars.
Look
I
at Joe.
because at some point they think it's an estimate. They think I may have to pay tax. So I already prepaid it. Nobody told me that.
Did your accountant
Nobody
tell you
told
when
you
you
that.
released
Excuse
them?
me. And it wasn't written whenever they write this. They keep talking
Ooh.
about $750, which I think is a filing fee. But let me just tell you, I prepaid millions and millions of dollars in taxes.
She straight asked him, "Why
Number
can't you
one. Number
release
two,
them?"
I don't make money from China. You do. I don't make money from Ukraine. You do. I don't make money from Russia. You made $3.5 million, Joe, and your son gave you. They even have a statement that we have to give 10% to the big man. You're the big man, I think. I don't know. Maybe you're not, but you're the big man, I think. Your son said we
No,
have to
Trump
give
has not
10%
released
to
his
the
tax
big man.
documents yet. He's
Joe,
not
what's it
going
all
to
about? It's
because
terrible.
he
All right,
knows how
gentlemen, I
shitty
wanna
they're
ask
going to
you
make
both
him
some
look.
questions
I have to
about all of
respond
this,
to
but I'm going to let you both
He only
respond.
paid
You
$750 in
just said you
taxes,
spoke to
yeah.
your accountant
Yes.
about
He paid
potentially releasing
everyone
your
in this
taxes. Tell
chat.
you when
If
you
you
can
worked
release
any
them.
job at any
How
point in
do
your
you
life,
stay
you have
on
paid
that
more
line
money in
overnight?
taxes
I
than
get
Donald Trump
treated
did that year.
worse than the Tea Party got treated. Because
you
I have a
don't
lot
have
of
a time.
people in there, deep down in the IRS, they treat me horribly. We made a deal, it was all settled until I decide to run for president. I get treated very badly by the IRS, very unfairly. But we had a deal all done. As soon as we're completed with the deal, I want to release it. But I have paid millions and millions of dollars, and it's worse than paying. I paid in advance. It's called prepaying your taxes. I paid in advance.
I want to ask you both about questions regarding your potential foreign entanglements and questions that have been raised.
There we
to
go.
Give you both a chance
Some
to
point
talk
about
about
this
this more broadly. Respond very quickly, and then I'll get to my question.
Why did he's been saying this for 4 years? Show
Right.
us.
Right.
Just
Right.
show
Let's go.
us. Stop playing around.
Let's go. You said stop playing around.
Release your taxes. Nobody knows, Mr. President. What they do know is you're not paying your taxes, or you're paying taxes that are so low. When last time he said what he paid, he said, I only pay that little because I'm smart. I know how to game the system. Come on. Come on, folks.
So
Come
President
on.
Trump, and then I
Come
want
on,
to put
Jack.
Questions to both of you.
I was put through a phony witch hunt for 3 years.
Entanglements.
It started before I even got elected. They spied on my campaign. No president should ever have to go through what I went through. Let me just say this. Mueller and 18 angry Democrats and FBI agents all over the place spent $48 million. They went through everything I had, including my tax returns, and they found absolutely no collusion and nothing wrong. $48 million. I guarantee you, if I spent $1 million on you, Joe, I could find plenty wrong. Because
All right.
the kind of things that you've done and the kind of monies that your family has taken, I mean, your brother made money in Iraq. millions of dollars. Your other brother made a fortune, and it's all through you, Joe. And they say you get some of it, and you do live very well. You have houses all over the place. You live very well.
All right, gentlemen, let me just ask some questions about all of this broadly. Vice President Biden, there have been questions about the work your son has done in China and for a Ukrainian energy company when you were vice president. In retrospect, was anything about those relationships inappropriate or unethical?
Nothing was unethical. Here's what the deal. With regard to Ukraine, we had this whole question about whether or not, because he was on the board, I later learned of Burisma, a company, that somehow I had done something wrong. Yet every single solitary person, when he was going through his impeachment, testifying under oath who worked for him, said, I did my job impeccably. I carried out U.S. policy. Not one single solitary thing was out of line. Not a single thing, number one. Number two, the guy who got in trouble in Ukraine was this guy trying to bribe the Ukrainian government to say something negative about me, which they would not do and did not do because it never, ever, ever happened. My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China. I have not had, the only guy made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Nobody else has made money from China.
Never
President
did
Trump,
deal with
let me
By the
ask
way,
my question to you.
But
and
could
then
I just,
you'll-
one thing?
Very quickly.
His son didn't have a job for a long time, was sadly no longer in the military service. I won't get into that. And he didn't have a job. As soon as he became vice president, Burisma, not the best reputation in the world, I hear they paid him $183,000 a month. Listen to that.
Right.
And he had no energy
I'm going to let the
experience.
vice president
That's
respond to that quickly,
100%
and then I need to get to a
dishonest.
question to you. Very
No
quickly,
basis
Mr.
for
Vice
that. Everybody investigated that. No one said anything he did was wrong in Ukraine.
Okay, President Trump, this is for you. Since you took office, you've never divested from your business. You've personally promoted your properties abroad. A report this week, which was referenced, does indicate that your company has a bank account in China.
Ooh!
How can voters know that you don't have any foreign conflicts of interest?
I have many bank accounts, and they're all listed, and they're all over the place. I mean, I was a businessman doing business. The bank account you're referring to, which is, everybody knows about it, it's listed. The bank account was in 2013. That's when it was. It was opened it was closed in 2015, I believe. And then I decided,
believe.
because I was thinking about doing a deal in China like millions of other people. I was thinking about it, and I
Millions of other
decided I'm
people.
not going to do it. Didn't like it. I decided not to do it. Had an account open, and I closed it.
Okay.
Excuse me. And then, unlike him, where he's vice president and he does business, I then decided to run for president after that. That was before. So I closed it before I even ran for president, let alone became president. Big difference. He is the vice president of the United States, and his son, his brother, and his other brother are getting rich. They're like a vacuum cleaner. They're sucking
Okay,
up money every
President Trump,
place he
thank you.
goes.
We do
Not
need to move
true.
on. I do want to ask you, Vice President Biden, about China. Let's talk about China more broadly. There have, of course, President Trump has said that they should pay for not being fully transparent in regards to the coronavirus. If you were president, would you make China pay? And please be specific. What would that look like?
What I'd make China do is play by the international rules, not like he has done. He has caused the deficit of China to go up, not down, with China, up, not down.
Yeah.
We are making sure
was a Goku
in order
dodge.
to do business in China, you have to give all your intellectual property. You have to have a partner in China. It's 51%. We would not do that at all, number one. Number two, we're in a situation where China would have to play by the rules internationally as well. When I met with
This man
Xi,
Trump just stays
when
trained,
I was
just
still
stays
vice
chain
president, he
dodging the
said,
questions.
We're setting up air identification zones in the South China Sea. You can't fly through them. I said, we're going to fly through them. We just flew B-52, B-1 bombers through it. We're not going to pay attention. They have to play by the rules. And what's he do? He embraces guys like the thugs like in North Korea and the Chinese president and Putin and others, and he pokes his finger in the eye of all of our friends, all of our allies. We make up we're 25% of the world's economy. We need to be having the rest of our friends with us saying to China, these are the rules. You play by them or you're going to pay the price for not paying by them economically. That's the way I will run it, and that's what we did in upholding steel tariffs and a range of other things when we were president and vice president.
All right, let's talk about North Korea.
Excuse me, no, I have to
Yes.
respond to that.
Okay, very quickly. And then
He's
we're
so
gonna move on
mad.
to
With
North
$1.5
Korea.
billion from China to
Not
manage after
true.
spending 10 minutes in office and being in Air Force Two, number one.
He's
Number
salty.
two, there's a very strong email talking about your family wanting to make $10 million a year for introductions.
President Trump, on China policy, though, what
No, but wait a
specifically are
minute.
you going to do? What specifically are you going to do to make China pay? You've said you're going
First
to
of
make
all,
them
That
pay.
was funny.
China's paying. They're paying billions and billions of dollars. I just gave
New
$28 billion.
sanctions? New
Listen,
sanctions?
I just gave $28 billion to our farmers. because
Taxpayers'
China-
money.
It's what?
Taxpayers' money. Didn't
No,
come
no,
from
yeah,
China.
you know who the taxpayer is? It's called China. China
Not
paid
true.
$28 billion, and you know what they did to pay it, Joe? They devalued their currency, and they also paid up. And you know who got the money? Our farmers, our great farmers, because they were targeted. You never charged them anything. Also, I charged them 25% on dumped steel because they were killing our steel industry. We were not going to have a steel industry.
Okay.
And now we have a steel
Okay,
industry.
Vice President Biden, your response, please.
My response is, look, this isn't about, there's a reason why he's bringing up all this malarkey. There's a reason for it. He doesn't want to talk about the substantive issues. It's not about his family and my family. It's about your family. And your family's hurting badly. If you're making less than, if you're a middle-class family, you're getting hurt badly right now. You're sitting at the kitchen table this morning deciding, well, we can't get new tires, they're bald because we have to wait another month or so. Or are we going to be able to pay the mortgage? Or who's going to tell her she can't go back to community college? They're the decisions you're making. In the middle-class families like I grew up in Scranton.
He's getting flustered. You could
They're
tell
in
because he's
trouble.
starting to stutter again.
We should be talking about your families, but that's the last thing he wants to talk about.
Trump's getting in his
I wanna
head.
say-
Trump's got it. He's corner bonking him.
I do want to turn to
please.
10 seconds, Mr. President,
That's
10
a
seconds.
Trump's got him corner trapped again.
Let's get off this China thing, and then he looks, the family, around the table, everything. Just a typical politician when I see that.
Let's talk about
I'm not
North
a typical
Korea now.
politician.
Okay,
That's why I got elected.
You are the literal
Let's talk-
definition
let's get off
of a
the
typical
subject of China.
politician
Let's
now.
talk
You've
about
been
sitting
you've been the
around the
president of
table.
the United States
Come on,
for
Joe, you
three
won't do
fucking
We're gonna
4
talk
years.
about North Korea now. President Trump, you've met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un 3 times. You've talked about your beautiful letters with him. You've touted the fact that there hasn't been a war or a long-range missile test. And yet North Korea recently rolled out its biggest ever intercontinental ballistic missile. and
He's mad about
continues
that.
to develop its nuclear arsenal. Do you see that as a betrayal of the relationship you
No.
forged? Just 30 seconds.
I totally agree, Glider Gaming.
So when I met with Barack Obama, we sat in the White House right at the beginning, had a great conversation. It was supposed to be 15 minutes, and it was well over an hour. He said the biggest problem we have with North Korea. He indicated we will be in a war with North Korea. Guess what? It would be a nuclear war, and he does have plenty of nuclear capability. In the meantime, I have a very good relationship with him. Different kind of a guy, but he probably thinks the same thing about me. We have a different kind of a relationship. We have a very good relationship, and there's no war. And you know, about 2 months ago, he broke into a certain area. They said, oh, there's going to be trouble. I said, no, they're not, because he's not going to do that. And I was right. Look, instead of being in a war where millions of people, Seoul, you know, is 25 miles away, millions and millions, 32 million people.
I
in
hate
Seoul.
the way he
Millions of
pronounces the
people
word
would be
million.
dead right now.
President
We
Trump,
don't have
that's
a war,
30
and I have a
seconds.
good
Thank you.
relationship.
Vice President Biden, to you, North Korea conducted 4 nuclear tests under the Obama administration.
Here's my
Why do you
unpopular
think you
opinion.
would be
I think
able to
North Korea
breathe
should have
in this
nukes.
persistent threat right
Because
now?
I'd make it clear, which we were making clear to China, they had to be part of the deal. Because here's I made it clear, and as a spokesperson of the administration when I went to China, that they said, why are you moving your missile defense up so close? Why are you moving more forces here? Why are you continuing to do military maneuvers with South
That's
Korea? I
conditional.
said, because
Obviously, my
North
ideal
Korea
position
a
is that
problem,
no one would have
and we're going to
nukes, but
continue to do it so we
as
can
long as
control
nukes are
them.
gonna be
We're gonna make sure
proliferated,
we
then
can
yeah,
control them
North
and
Korea
make
should
sure
have
they
nukes.
cannot hurt us. And so if you want to do something
Millions,
about it, step
millions.
up and help. If not, it's going to continue. What has he done? He's legitimized North Korea. He's talked about his good buddy who's a thug, and he talks about how we're better off. And they have much more capable missiles, able to reach U.S. territory much more easily than ever did before.
Let me follow up with you, Vice President Biden. You've said you
North
wouldn't
Korea
meet
are not
Kim
going to
Jong-un
nuke the
without
United States. They
preconditions.
might
Are there
nuke
any conditions
South
under which
Korea,
you
but
would
North
meet?
Korea are not going to nuke the
On the
United States.
condition that he would agree that he would be drawing down his nuclear.
Right, let's move on to American
Kristen,
families.
they tried
Very
to
quickly,
meet with
10
him.
seconds,
They
President.
tried to meet with him. He wouldn't do it. He didn't like Obama. He didn't like him. He wouldn't do it.
Okay, I
know
gotta
for
give him a
fact they
chance to
tried.
respond to that
he
before we
wouldn't
move
do
on.
it.
You
And
know,
that's okay. You know what? North
Was
Korea,
he even
we're not in a war. We have a good relationship.
the
You
head
know,
of North
people don't
Korea?
listen. Having a good
President
relationship
Trump,
with
we have to
leaders
move
of other
on, 'cause
countries
we
is a good thing.
We have a lot of questions to get
Yes,
to.
not
That's
Your
like
response.
saying we had a good relationship with Hitler before he, in fact, invaded Europe, the rest of Europe. Come on. The reason he would not meet with President Obama is because President Obama said, we're going to talk about denuclearization. We're not going to legitimize you, and we're going to continue to put stronger and stronger sanctions on you. That's why he wouldn't meet with us.
Yo, what's up, Levi? What's up, Spaceman?
Move on. Let's
Yeah.
move on and talk
He
about
left
American
me a
families.
mess, Kristen.
President
Orange
Trump,
is sus,
you need
but
to move on.
I got in late, but it's a
North
pretty big
Korea
mess
was a
already.
mess.
We
And in
need to
fact,
move
if
on
you
so that
remember
we
the
can get
first
to all
2 or
of our
3
other
months,
questions tonight,
there was a
President
very
Trump.
dangerous period in my first 3 months before we sort of worked things out a little bit.
Okay.
There was a they left us a mess, and Obama would be, I think, the first to say it was the single biggest problem he thought that our country.
Okay, let's move on to American families and the economy. One of the issues that's most important to them is health care, as you both know. Today, there was a key vote on a new Supreme Court justice. Amy, 20 million Americans get their health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. It's headed to the Supreme Court, and your administration, Mr. President, is advocating for the court to overturn it.
Yeah, two
If the
very
Supreme
unqualified
Court does
individuals.
overturn that law,
Which is
the
crazy
20 million
because the only
Americans
person
lose their
who's
health
actually
insurance
kind of
almost
sort of
overnight. So
qualified
what
is the
would you
person that's
do
not
if
president
those
right
people
now.
have their health insurance taken away? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
First of all, I've already done something that nobody thought was possible. Through the legislature, I terminated the individual mandate. That is the worst part of Obamacare, as we call it. The individual mandate where you have to pay a fortune for the privilege
Yeah, he's
of
qualified,
not
but he's
having to pay
stupid.
for bad health insurance. I terminated. It's gone.
Exactly. That's
Now
what I
it's
was
in
referring
court
to.
because
Biden at
Obamacare
least
is no
has,
good. But then I made a
for
decision,
better or
run it
worse, he
as
at
well
least
as you
has
can
experience in
to my
politics.
People, great people.
He's
Run it
done a
as
lot of
well as
fucked
you
up
can. I could've
things
gone the
in
other
terms
route
of
and made
his
everybody very
voting
unhappy.
record, but
They ran it.
and legislation he's
Premiums
introduced.
are
But
down, everything's down. Here's the problem. No matter how well you run it, it's no good.
yeah, I hate
What we'd like
politics
to
too,
do is
but it's important.
terminate it. We
It's
have
the
individual
fucking pill
mandate.
inside the peanut butter. You know what I
If
mean?
It's going to work. If we don't win, we will have to run it, and we'll have Obamacare, but it'll be better run. But it no longer is Obamacare, because without the individual mandate, it's much different. Pre-existing
I'm an
conditions
anarchata,
will
so I
always
don't
stay. What I would like to do
particularly
is
like
a
enjoy
much
voting.
better
I don't
healthcare,
believe
much
in
better.
legit. I don't believe the United States government is
Always
legitimate.
protect people with
But
pre-existing. So I'd like to terminate
obviously it's not
Obamacare,
going to
come
be
up with a brand new,
abolished
beautiful
tomorrow,
healthcare.
so it's
The
kinda important
Democrats
to
will
pay
do it
attention.
Because there'll be tremendous pressure on them, and we might even have the House by that time, and I think we're going to win the House, okay? You'll see, but I think we're going to win the House. But come up with a better health care, always protecting people with pre-existing conditions. And one thing very important, we have 180 million people out there that have great private health care, far more than we're talking about with Obamacare. Joe Biden is going to terminate
Basically,
all of those
Levi,
policies. These are people
100%
that love their
correct.
healthcare. People that have been successful.
Old ass
middle
people
income
completely
people,
fucking out of
been
touch with the future of the
successful.
country.
They have 180 million plans, 180 million.
Biden's been holding
families.
back laughter this entire
Under
debate.
what
The
he
only
wants
time
to
he gets
do, which
serious
will
is when Trump
basically
starts
be
talking about his
socialized
son.
medicine. He won't even have a choice. They want to terminate 180 million plans. We have done an incredible job on health care, and we're going to do even better.
Okay,
Let me
Vice
respond.
President Biden, yes.
She cut
this
his
is for
mic,
you.
that's
Your
funny.
healthcare plan calls for building on Obamacare. So my question is, what is your plan if the law is ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
What I'm going to do is pass Obamacare with a public option, become Biden-care. The
That's a
public
half
option
measure.
is an option that says that if you, in fact, do not have the wherewithal to be, if you qualify for Medicaid and you do not have the wherewithal in your state to get Medicaid, you automatically are enrolled, providing competition for insurance.
Yeah,
companies.
AOC is smart
That's
and
what's gonna
fine.
happen. Secondly, we're going to make sure we reduce the premiums and reduce drug prices by making sure that there's
Oh yeah,
competition
Trump
that doesn't
corner
exist now
traps him
by
with
allowing
bullshit.
the
Gets him
Medicare
flustered.
to negotiate drug prices with the insurance companies. Thirdly, the
Yeah,
idea
exactly,
that
Kuma
I
Bear.
wanna
Like,
eliminate private insurance.
I would react the same way. I gotta applaud Joe Biden for not walking across the stage and giving him a fucking 3-piece and a soda. Because if you talk about my family like that, I'll fuck you up.
One single person with private insurance would lose their insurance under my plan, nor did they under Obamacare. They did not lose their insurance.
I'm sure
unless they
AOC's a
chose
terrible liar.
they
She's a
wanted
good
to go
person, it
something
seems
else.
like.
Lastly, we're going to make sure we're in a situation that we actually protect pre-existing. There's no way he can protect pre-existing conditions. None. Zero. You can't do it in the ether. He's been talking about this for a long time. He's never come up with a plan. I guess we're going to get the pre-existing condition plan the same time we get the infrastructure plan that we've been waiting since 17, 18, 19, and 20. The fact, I still have a few
The
more
last
minutes. I don't
debate,
get
well,
that.
that's why they have the ability to cut people's mics, because that's what the first debate was. They just started yelling at each other. Like the mediator was like literally begging them to stop fucking yelling at each other.
People have lost their private insurance. And he wants to take away 22 million more people who have it under Obamacare and over 110 million people with pre-existing conditions. And all the people from COVID are going to have pre-existing conditions. What are they going to do?
I have a follow-up for you, Vice President Biden. It relates to something that President Trump said. He's accusing you of wanting socialized medicine. What do you say to people who have concerns that your health care plan, which includes a government insurance option, takes the country one step closer to a health care system run entirely by the government? What's
I
your
say
response
it's
to them?
ridiculous. It's like saying that, the idea that the fact that there's a public option that people can choose, that makes it a socialist plan. Look, the difference between the president, I think health care is not a privilege, it's a right.
Actually, he doesn't understand why
Endorsed by
public option
all the
doesn't
major
ensure
labor
that, but
unions, as well as
that's the
a
right
whole
talking
range of
point.
other people
Healthcare
who, in
is a
fact, are
right.
concerned in the medical field. This is something that's going to save people's lives, and this is going to give some people an opportunity to have health care for their children. How many of you home are worried and rolling around in bed at night wondering what in God's name you're going to do if you get sick? Because you've lost your home insurance.
Trump will probably
health
win
insurance your
with the
company bought.
hands, to be honest.
We have to provide health insurance for people at an affordable rate. That's what I
Unfortunately.
do.
President Trump,
Excuse me, he was
your
there
response.
for 47 years. He didn't do it. He was now there as vice president for 8 years, and it's not like it was 25 years ago. It was 3 3/4. It was just a little while ago, right? Less than 4 years ago. He didn't do anything. He didn't do it. He wants socialized medicine, and it's not that he wants it. His vice president, I mean, she is more liberal than Bernie Sanders and wants it even more. Bernie Sanders wants it. The Democrats want it.
A
You're
what?
going to have socialized medicine, just like he went with fracking. We're not going to have fracking. We're going to stop fracking. We're going to stop fracking. Then he goes to Pennsylvania after he gets a nomination, where he got very lucky to get it. And he goes to Pennsylvania, and he says, "Oh, we're going to have fracking." And you never asked that question. And by the way, so far, I respect very much the way you're handling this, I have to say.
By the way-
But somebody should ask the question.
You can ask
He goes for a year. There will be
We
no
have
fracking.
a,
there
we
will
do
be
have a
no
number of
petroleum.
topics
No,
we're
no,
going to
but
get
that's a
to.
big- that's a big question.
We're going to get to. We're going to get to.
It's
a
the
number
same
of
thing with
topics.
socialized
I have to
medicine.
respond.
Vice President, your response, please.
My response is people deserve to have affordable health care, period. Period.
Facts.
And
Facts.
the Biden care proposal
Healthcare should be
is
free for
provide
everyone,
that
but,
affordable healthcare, lower
socialism.
premiums. What we're going to do is going to cost some money. It's going to cost over $750 billion over 10 years to do it. And they're going to have lower premiums. You can buy into the better plans, the cheaper plans, lower your premiums, deal with unexpected billing, and have your drug prices drop significantly. He keeps talking about it. He hasn't done a thing for anybody on health care. Not a thing.
Tristan, when
Facts.
he
Very quickly,
says,
then I wanna talk
when
about
he
what's
says
happening on
public
Capitol
option,
Hill.
he's talking about socialized medicine, and when he and healthcare. When he talks about a public option, he's talking about destroying your Medicare.
He's stupid.
And destroying your Social Security, and this whole country will come down. You know, Bernie.
The only people trying to destroy Social Security are fucking Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham, dog. Like, I don't get this. I don't get it.
Okay.
I don't understand how right-wingers are this stupid.
President Biden respond.
Like, they literally vote against their own interests just because they want white people to win.
He's running
And it's
against
crazy.
Joe Biden. I beat all those other people because I disagreed with them. Joe Biden he's running against. And the idea that we're in a situation that they're going to destroy Medicare, this is the guy that the actuary at Medicare said, if in fact, at Social Security, if in fact he continues to withhold his plan to withhold the tax on Social Security will be bankrupt by 2023 with no way to make
Wow.
up for it. This is the guy who's tried to cut Medicare. So I mean, the idea that Donald Trump is
Yeah, that is the
on
right
Social
in a nutshell.
Security and Medicare? Come on.
You could say what the
He
fuck
tried
ever
to-
as long as it's got the 14 words in there.
Security years ago. Go back and look at the records. He tried to hurt Social Security years ago.
All
One
right,
thing,
let's move
but
on.
this
I'm
is
going to
the
move
guy
on.
that
Let
when
me,
they
Mr.
announced
President, I have to
last
move
week,
on to the next question.
They said
or
the
else
stock
we're not
market
going to
will
have time
boom
to talk about it.
if I'm elected. If he's elected, the stock market will crash.
Okay, let's
biggest
move on to
analysts
the
are
next
saying
question.
that.
Very quickly.
The stock market is going to crash no matter
The
who gets
idea
elected,
that
just
the
so
stock
everyone
market
knows.
is booming is his only measure of what's happening.
Right.
Where I come from,
That's
is
true as
currently
well.
Claymont, that people don't live off of the stock market.
Right. Thank you.
Just in the last
Thank you, Biden.
three years during this crisis, the billionaires in this country made, according to the Wall Street, $700 billion more. $700 billion more, because that's his only measure. What happens to the ordinary people out there? What happens to them?
Let's talk about what's happening on Capitol Hill. We're going to
Kristen,
move on, gentlemen.
401ks are through the roof.
We're gonna
People's
move on.
stock are through the roof.
All right.
And he doesn't come from Scranton. That's like he lived there for a short period of time before he even knew
we're
it.
going to move
He's
on
stupid
to the
as
next
fuck.
And the
question.
people of Pennsylvania
Let me
will
move
show
on
you
to my
that.
next question,
They
gentlemen.
understand.
As of
Raise your
tonight,
hand in chat if you have a
12 million
401k.
people are out of work, and as of tonight, 8 million more Americans have fallen into
I'll wait.
poverty, and more families are going hungry every day. Those hit hardest
I
are
sure as
women
fuck
and
don't have
people of
one.
color. They see Washington fighting over a relief bill. Mr. President, why haven't you been able to get them the help they need? 30 seconds here.
Because Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve it. I do.
I gave up my job. I gave up my
I do, but I
401k.
still have to get. Unfortunately, that's one of the reasons I think we're going to take over the House because of her. Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve anything because she'd love to have some victories on a date called November 3rd. Nancy Pelosi does not want to approve it. We are ready, willing, and able to do something. Don't forget, we've already approved 3 plans, and it's gone through.
Yeah, I did for a
including
few
the
months once
Democrats.
upon a
In all
time
fairness,
as well.
This one she doesn't want. It's near the election because she thinks it helps her politically. I think it hurts her politically.
All right, Mr. Vice President,
You know, the Republican leader in the United States Senate said he can't pass it. He will not be able to pass it. He does not have Republican votes. Why isn't he talking to his Republican friends?
That's pretty
Let me
cool,
follow up
though,
with you, Vice
Spaceman, that they at
President.
least offered it.
Because let me ask Vice President Biden a question. You are the leader of the Democratic Party. Why have you not pushed the Democrats to get a deal for the American people?
Well, I have, and they have pushed it. Look, they passed this act all the way back in the beginning of the summer. This is like it's not new.
Right.
It's been out there.
This is facts.
This hero is
Democrats
like
have been trying to
sitting
do
there.
this for
And look at
months.
what's happening. When I was in charge of the Recovery Act with $800 billion, I was able to get $145 billion to local communities.
Yeah, your
that have
401k is
balance
about to
the
get
budget.
fucked
The
up
states
because the
have to
stock
balance
market's about to
budget, so they
crash, just so
have
you
to
know.
They have to fire firefighters, teachers, first responders, law enforcement.
They're probably going to do a bunch
so
of
they can
QE
keep
and shit
their
again like they
cities
did in
and counties
2008,
running.
but get
He
ready because
will
that shit's
not
coming.
support that. They have not done a thing for them. And Mitch McConnell said, let them go bankrupt.
Or
Let 'em go
2009, I'm
bankrupt.
sorry.
Come on. What's the matter
The bill
with
that
these
was
guys?
passed in the House was a bailout of badly run, high crime, Democrat, all run by Democrats, cities and states. It was a way of getting a lot of money.
I will
billions and
reiterate that
billions of
Maryland
dollars
has
to
a
these
Republican
states. It was
governor
also a way of getting a lot of
who
money
just voted
from
for
our
Ronald
people's
Reagan.
pockets to people that come into our country illegally.
Not a joke.
We were going to take care of everything for them. And what that does, and I'd love to do that, I'd love to help them, but what that does, everybody all over the world will start pouring into our country. We can't do it. This was a way of taking care of them. This was a way of spending on things that had nothing to do with COVID, as per your question. But it was really a big bailout for badly run Democrat cities and states.
All right,
By
I
the way,
want to.
if I get elected, I'm running as a proud Democrat, but I'm going to be an American president. I don't see red states and blue states. What I see is American, United
Okay,
States.
okay.
Folks,
Talk
every
that talk.
single state out there
Talk
finds
that talk.
themselves in trouble. They're going to start laying off, whether they're red or blue, cops, firefighters, first responders, because teachers, because they have
Trump
to
is
balance
dumb.
their budget. And the founders were smart. They allowed the federal government to deficit spend to compensate for the United States of America.
I want to talk about the minimum wage, gentlemen. Mr. Vice President,
Okay.
we are talking a lot about struggling small businesses
Yes.
and business owners these days. Do you think this is the right time to ask them to raise the minimum wage? You, of course, support a $15 federal minimum
I
wage.
do, because I think one of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to bail them out too.
Right.
We should be bailing them out now.
Right.
For small businesses. You got 1 in 6 of them going under.
Right.
They're not going to be able to make it back. They passed a package that allows us to be able to call PPP. Money is supposed to go to help them do everything from organize how they can.
And it went
deal
to
with their
major
businesses being open
corporations.
safely.
It went to the corporation that I used to work
Schools,
for.
How they can make classrooms smaller. How they can hire more
PPP
teachers, how
was
they can
just a
put
giant
ventilation
fucking
systems
handout
in.
to rich people.
They need the help. The businesses as well as the schools need the help. But these guys will not help them. Is not giving them any of the money.
We are going to move on to
Excuse me,
immigration,
one thing very
but I
quickly.
want
He
to get
said we
your
have to help our
reaction.
small businesses by raising the minimum wage. That's not helping. I think it should be a state
That helps the workers, dummy.
Alabama is different than New York. New York is different from Vermont. Every state is different. It should be a state option.
You said very
we have
recently-
to help. It's very important. We have to help our small businesses.
You
How
said-
are you helping your small businesses when you're forcing wages? What's going to happen, and what's been proven to happen, is when you do that, these small businesses fire many of their employees.
That is
You said
false.
recently you would
By the way.
consider raising the federal
I'm
minimum
glad he
wage
said
to
it's not true.
$15
Say
an
it.
hour. You said recently you would consider raising the federal minimum wage to $15
What I
an
really
hour. Is
like,
that still the case?
and I would consider it to an extent, but
In a
what I
second
really like,
administration?
in a second administration.
Look
but
at Biden,
not to
yo.
a level that's going to put all these businesses out of business. It should be a state option. Look, I've lived in different places. I know different places. They're all different. Some places, $15 is not so bad. In other places, other states, $15 would be
Okay, President
ruinous.
Trump, thank you. Quick
No
response,
one
Vice
should
President
work
Biden.
2 jobs, 1 job, be below poverty. People are making $6, $7, $8 an hour. These first responders, we all clap for as they come down the street because they've allowed us to make it. What's happening? They deserve a minimum wage of $15. Anything below
Thank you,
that
Joe
puts you
Biden.
below the poverty level. And there is no evidence that when you raise the minimum wage, businesses go out of business. That
Right.
is simply not true.
We're going
Right.
to talk about
No fault.
immigration. We're going to talk about immigration now, gentlemen, and we're going to talk about families within this context. Mr. President, your administration separated children from their parents at the border, at least 4,000 kids. You've since reversed your zero-tolerance policy, but the United States can't locate the parents of more than 500 children. So how will these families ever be reunited?
Children are brought here by coyotes and lots of bad people.
Oh, God.
Cartels. And they're brought here, and they used to use them to get into our country. We now have as strong a border as we've ever had. We're over 400 miles of brand-new wall.
He doesn't even
You
give a
see the
shit about
numbers,
those
and we let
children.
people in,
He
but
just
they
wants
have
to
come in legally, and they come in through
But
merit.
how will you
But let
reunite
me
these
just tell
kids
you,
with their
let me
families?
just tell you,
Goku
they
Dodge.
built
Let's talk about how
cages. You know,
strong
they
and
used
how
to
much
say,
work
"I
I
built
had
the
done.
cages."
How
And then they
awesome
had picture
a
in
wall I built.
certain newspaper, and it was a picture of these horrible cages, and they said, "Look at these cages. President Trump built them." And then it was determined they were built in 2014. That was him.
Do you
They
have a
built
plan to
cages.
reunite the kids
Yes,
with
we're
their
working on
families?
it. We're trying
Goku
very hard.
Dodge.
But a lot of these kids come out without the parents. They come over through cartels and through coyotes and through gangs.
Vice President Biden, let me bring you into this
525.
conversation. Quick response and then another question to you.
These 500-plus kids came with parents. They separated them at the
Right.
border to make it a disincentive to come to begin with.
Right. He said that
Very,
himself.
Real tough. We're really strong. And guess what? They cannot, it's not coyotes didn't bring them over. Their parents were with them. They got separated from their parents. And it makes us a laughing stock and violates every notion of who we are as a nation.
Let me ask you a follow-up
Kristen,
question.
they did it. We changed the policy.
Your response
they
to
did
that?
It.
What a
We changed
fucking
it.
jackass.
They built the cages.
They-
Who built the cages, Joe?
Let's talk about
Obama was the
Let's talk
deporter-in-chief,
about what we're
but
talking
they didn't
about.
do that.
What happened? Parents were ripped, their kids were ripped from their arms and separated. And now they cannot find over 500 sets of those parents, and those kids are alone. Nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. It's criminal. It's criminal.
Let me ask
Kristen,
you
I will
about
say this.
immigration.
They went
10
down.
seconds,
We
and then
brought
I need to ask
reporters,
you.
everything. They are so well taken care of. They're in facilities that were so clean.
But some
and
of them
have gotten
haven't been
such
reunited
But
with their
just ask
families.
one question. Who built the cages? I'd love you to ask him that. Who built the cages?
Let me ask about your immigration policy, Mr. Vice President. The Obama administration did fail to deliver immigration reform, which had been a key promise during the administration. It also presided over record deportations as well as family detentions at the border before changing course. So why should voters trust you with an immigration
He's definitely
overhaul
capping.
now?
Because we made a mistake. It took too long to get it right. It took too long to get it right. I'll be president of the United States, not vice president of the United States. And the fact is, I've made it very clear. Within 100 days, I'm going to send to the United States Congress a pathway to citizenship for over 11 million undocumented people. And all of those so-called dreamers, those DACA kids, they're going to be immediately certified again to be able to stay in this country and put on a path to citizenship. The idea that they are being sent home by this guy and they want to do that is they've gone to a country they've never seen before. I can imagine you're 5 years old, your parents are taking you across the Rio Grande River, and it's illegal. And you say, oh, no, Mom, leave me here. I'm not going to go with you. They've been here. Many of them are model citizens. Over 20,000 of them are first responders out there taking care of people during this crisis. We owe them. We owe them.
President Trump,
he
your
had
reaction.
8
Joe Biden
years
that's facts.
to do what he said he was going to do. And I've changed without having a specific. We got rid of catch and release. We got rid of a lot of horrible things that they put in and that they lived with. But he had 8 years he was vice president. He did nothing except build cages to keep children in.
Vice President
Wrong.
Biden, your response.
The catch and release, you know what he's talking about there? If in fact you had a family came across and they were arrested, they in fact were given a date to show up for their hearing. They were released. And guess what? They showed up for a hearing. And this is the first president in the history of the United States of America that anybody seeking asylum has to do it in another country. That's never happened before in America. That's never happened before in America. Based on the following
He was a
premise,
senator
why
for like
I deserve
27
it under
years too,
American
right?
law. They're sitting in squalor on the other side of the river.
President Trump, your response,
So
30
important.
seconds, and then we'll move
It just shows that he has no understanding of immigration or the laws. Catch and release is a disaster. A murderer would come in, a rapist would come in,
He's
a
stupid.
very bad person would come in. We would take their name. We have to release them into our country. And then you say they come back. Less than 1% of the people come back. We have to send ICE out.
So
and
few
Border Patrol out to find them.
undocumented
We would say,
immigrants
"Come back
are
in
criminals.
2
It's
years,
insane
3 years.
because
We're gonna give you a
you
court
know
case. You need
if you
permits.
commit a
We're
crime
gonna
and
give
get
you a
caught,
court
you're gonna
case.
get fucking
When
deported.
you say they come
Fairly
back,
simple,
they
right?
don't come back, Joe.
But
They
not if you're a
never
fucking
come
racist
back.
piece of shit who
Only
just
the
wants only white people in your country, right?
I hate to say this, but those with the lowest IQ, they might come back.
Okay,
But they're
President
very,
Trump, let's
very
give
few.
Vice President Biden a chance
See,
to respond.
listen to
and then
his,
we're gonna
listen to
move
this
on
shit.
the
You don't
next
know the
section.
Racist piece of shit, dog.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Know the law, what he's telling you is simply not true.
Well, check it out. They don't come back.
Check it out.
All right, let's move on
But we don't have to
the
worry
next
about it because they
section.
terminated it, so we don't have to worry about
Let's
it
move
anymore.
on to the next
And you have
section.
525 kids not knowing where in God's name they're going to be and lost their parents.
Go ahead.
All right, let's talk about
Damn!
the next section, which is race in America. And I want to talk about the way
Biden
Black
just
and
parried the
non-Americans
fuck out of him. Get
experience race
parried,
in this
bitch.
country.
Get fucking
Part of that
parried.
experience is something called the talk. It happens regardless of class and income. Parents who feel they have no choice but to prepare their children for the chance that they could be targeted, including by the police, for no reason other than the color of their skin. Mr. Vice President, in the next 2 minutes, I want you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
I do. I do. You know, my daughter is a social worker, and she's written a lot about this. She has a graduate degree from the University of Pennsylvania in social work. And you know, one of the reasons why I ended up working on the east side of Wilmington, Delaware, which is 90% African American, was to learn more about what was going on. What I never had to tell my daughter, if she's pulled over, make sure she puts, for a traffic stop, put both hands on top of the wheel and don't reach for the glove box because someone may shoot you. But a black parent, no matter how wealthy or how poor they are, has to teach their child, when you're walking down the street, don't have a hoodie on when you
All
go across the
facts.
street.
All
Making
facts.
sure that you, in fact, if you
Best friend's mom told me not to wear my hood up, keep my hands out my pockets. Yes, sir, no, sir, when I'm in the mall.
You are, in fact, the victim, whether you're a person making child of a $300,000
Doesn't
a
matter.
year person, or someone who's on food stamps. The fact of the matter
I could be
is,
in there leaving
is
the
institutional
fucking Gap or the
racism
Banana
there.
Republic.
And we
I could be in there
have
leaving the
always
jewelry
said,
store with a bag in my
we've never
hand.
lived up to it, that we hold these
Doesn't
truths
matter.
to be self-evident. All men and women are created equal. But guess what?
I could be
have
leaving the
never,
fucking
ever
Louis
lived
store.
up to it, but we've
I'm still a
all
fucking
constantly
suspect,
been
right?
moving the needle further
Black is
and further
sus.
to inclusion, not exclusion. This is the first president to come along and says that's the end of that.
Brown is
We're not
sus.
going to do that anymore. We have to provide for economic opportunity, better education, better health care, better access to schooling, better access to opportunity to borrow money to start businesses. All the things we can do, and I've laid out a clear plan as to how to do those things.
Okay, Joe Biden.
Just to give people a shot. It's
Okay, Joe
about
Biden.
accumulating the ability to have wealth as well as it is to be free from violence.
Facts, Kuma. I
President
believe
Trump,
it.
same question to you, and let me remind you of the question. I would like you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
Yes, I do. And again, he's been in government 47 years. He never did a thing except in 1994 when he did such harm to the black community. And they were called, and he called them super predators.
He did not.
And he said that. He said it, super predators.
He did not. Hillary Clinton said
And
that.
they kept never lived that down. 1994, your crime bill, the super predators. Nobody has done more for the black community than Donald Trump. And if you
He's
look,
false.
with the exception
That is false.
of Abraham Lincoln, possible exception, but the exception of Abraham Lincoln, nobody has done what I've done. Criminal justice reform, Obama and Joe
Obama.
didn't do it. I don't even think they tried because they had no chance at doing it. They might have wanted to do
Obama
it,
pardoned
but if you
hella
had to see
people
the
towards the
arms
end
I
of his
had to twist
presidency.
to get that done, it was not a pretty picture, and everybody knows it, including some very liberal people that cried in my office. They cried in the Oval Office. 2 weeks later, they're out saying, gee, we have to defeat him. Criminal justice reform, prison reform, opportunity zones with Tim Scott, a great senator from South Carolina.
Oh,
He came in
God.
with this incredible idea for opportunity zones. It's one of the most successful programs. People don't talk about it. Tremendous investment is being made. Biggest beneficiary, the black and Hispanic communities, and then historically black colleges and universities.
Yeah, he's
After
supposed to
3
be
years
talking
of
to the
coming
American
office,
people
I
right
love
now.
some
He's
of
just
those
talking
guys. They
about
were great.
himself,
They
which
came into
we
the
expected.
office, and they said, I said, what are you doing? After 3 years, I said, why do you keep coming back? Because we have no funding. I said, you don't have to come back every year. We have to come back because President Obama would never give them long-term funding, and I did. 10-year
Oh, yeah.
long-term
That's
funding,
that's
and I
Trump's
gave them
MO,
more
though, human
money
roadkill.
than they asked for because they said, I think you need more. And I said, the only bad part about this is I may never see you again because I got very friendly with them, and they like me and I like them. But I saved it. Colleges and universities.
Okay, and we're going to talk about both of your records, but your
cut his
response to
shit.
that, Vice
My
President.
response to that is I never, ever said what he accused me of saying. The fact of the matter is, in 2000, though, after the crime bill had been in the law for a while, this is a guy who said, the problem with the crime bill, there's not enough people in jail. There's not enough people in jail. And go on my website.
He
get
did
the
say
quote,
that.
The date when he said it.
He
Not
did
enough
say
people.
that.
He talked about marauding gangs, young gangs, and the people who are going to maraud our cities. This is a guy who, in the Central Park Five innocent black kids, he continued.
Let's go. Bring up the Central Park Five. Let's go.
None of them were guilty of the crimes they were suggested. Look, and talk about granted, he did in fact let 20 people. He commuted 20 people sentences. We commuted over 1,000 people sentences.
Right. There you go. Talk that talk. Talk that talk. Talk that fucking talk, Joe Biden. Talk that shit. That real good shit. That hot shit.
We're in a situation here where the federal prison system was reduced by 38,000 people under our administration. And one of these things we should be doing, there should be no minimum mandatories in the law.
Right.
That's why I'm offering $20 billion to states to change their state laws to eliminate minimum mandatories and set up drug courts. No one should be going to jail because they have a drug problem. They should be going to rehabilitation.
Oh
not to
no,
jail.
Spaceman.
We
They
should
intentionally
fundamentally
hide
change
that
the
shit
system,
from
and
us.
that's what
So,
I'm
you
going
know,
to do.
But
it's
why
not entirely
didn't you
your
do it
fault.
4 years ago? Why didn't you do that 4 years ago, even less than that? Why didn't you
I
do it?
am
You were
not-
vice president. You keep talking about all these things you're going to do, and you're going to do this.
He just
You
talked
were
about
there
stuff he
a
already
short
did.
time ago,
Dude, this
and
man
you guys
Trump
did
is
nothing.
has
We did.
brain
Joe,
disease.
I ran because
He has
of you.
brain worms.
I ran because of Barack Obama, because you did a poor job. If I thought you did a good job, I would have never run. I would have never run. I ran because of you. I'm looking at you now. You're a politician. I ran because of you.
All right, Vice President Biden.
Because he
your
knew
response
that
to
the
and
racists
then
in
I
the
do
country
have
would be
some
mad
questions
as
for
shit
both
and
of
vote for
I'll
him.
tell you what, I hope he does look at me because what's happening here is, you know who I am.
He
You know
is a
who he
fucking
is.
brain worm.
You know his character. You know my character. You know our reputations for honor and telling the truth. I am anxious to have this race. I am anxious to see this take place. Character of the country is on the ballot. Our character is on the ballot. Look at us closely.
Let me ask some follow-up.
Excuse me.
Please respond,
If
and then we're
this
going to have
stuff
follow-up
is
questions.
true about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries, Iraq, if this is true, then he's a corrupt politician.
All right.
So don't give me the stuff.
He
about
literally
how you're
is a
this
corrupt
innocent
politician.
baby. Joe, they're calling you a corrupt politician.
Nobody's
Take a look
President
at the
Trump, I
laptop
want to
from
stay
hell.
on the issue
Excuse
of
me,
race. We're
take a look
talking
at
about the issue.
laptop from hell.
President Trump, we're
Nobody.
talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
And I
you've
have
just
to respond to that.
Please,
Because look,
very
there
quickly.
are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They
Let's
have
go.
said
Thank
that
you.
This has all the 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch
I don't
of
know.
garbage.
I kind of really
Nobody
fucking hate the
believes
CIA.
except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
And
You
that's
gotta be-
exactly what.
Is this
That's
where you're
exactly what.
This is
And
where
that's
you're
how
going.
Trump
The
wins, because he
laptop
spins that
is
shit, and his
Russia.
brain dead ass
I wanna
base
stay
just
on the issue of
they
race.
eat that up.
Okay?
To be kidding. Here we
Mr.
go
President?
again with Russia.
We're going to continue on the issue of race. Mr. President,
believe
you've
that one.
described the Black Lives Matter movement as a symbol of hate. You've shared a video of a man chanting white power to millions of your supporters.
Oh yeah, you know
You've said that
Levi.
black
There's going to be
professional
brain
athletes
dead people who
exercising
think
their
that
First
they're
Amendment
not
rights
being
should
fair
be
to Trump.
fired. What do you say to Americans who say that kind of language from a president is contributing to a climate of hate and racial strife?
Well, you have to understand, the first time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter, they were chanting pigs in a blanket, talking about police. Pigs, talking about our police. Pigs in a blanket.
Why would they say
fried
that, Donald
like
Trump?
bacon. I said, that's a horrible thing. And they were marching down the street. And that was my first glimpse of Black Lives Matter. I thought it was a terrible thing. As far as my relationships with all people, I think I have great relationships
Death
with all
digging his
people.
own grave.
I am the least racist person in this room.
But what do
Wow.
you say to Americans who are concerned by that?
Wow.
I don't know.
by the-
I mean, I
the
don't know
video?
Wow.
what to say. I got criminal justice reform done and prison reform and opportunity zones. I took care of black colleges and universities. I don't know.
There's
what to
not a
say.
racist bone
They
in
can
my
say
body.
anything.
My brain is
They
racist.
can say anything. It makes me sad because I am the least racist person. I can't even see the audience because it's so dark. But I don't care who's in the audience. I'm the least racist person in this room.
Okay,
False.
Vice President Biden, let me ask you very quickly, and then I have a follow-up question for you.
Abraham Lincoln here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history. He pours fuel on every single racist fire.
He does.
Every single one. Started off. his
David
campaign
Duke supports
coming
him,
down
enough
the
said.
escalator saying he's going to get rid of those Mexican rapists. He's banned Muslims because they're Muslims. He has moved around and made everything worse across the board. He says about the poor boys. Last time we were on
Abraham
stage,
Lincoln
he
here,
said, "I
yeah.
told him to stand
This man
down
Joe Biden is
and
cooking him
stand
the
ready."
fuck up for real. It just sucks
This
that
guy is a
Republicans
dog
are brain
whistle
dead,
about big
and
as a foghorn.
as soon as he starts
President Trump, I'm
listening,
gonna
it's
give you
like
10
a
seconds to
whistle
respond,
going
and
on
I
in the
have a follow-up.
background.
You made a reference to Abraham Lincoln. Where did that come in? I mean,
You said
where
you're
did that-
Abraham Lincoln.
No, where did that? No. Not since Abraham
What?
Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community.
And I'm
I
saying-
didn't say I'm Abraham Lincoln. I said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community. Now, you have done nothing other than the crime bill, which put
He was the vice president for the first black president.
men mostly in jail.
All right, let me-
And you know
let me
what?
a- let me
They
ask
remember
Vice
it
President
because if you
Biden
look
a
at what's
question.
happening with the voting right now,
Let me ask
they
Vice
remember
President
the-
Biden.
What is this?
about-
very, very badly.
The-
Just
the-
take a look at what's happening out there.
They need to
President Biden,
lower
let me give you a
Trump's
chance to respond in this
dosage.
context.
Holy
Farm bills that he
shit.
supported in the 80s and 90s contributed to the incarceration of tens of thousands of young black men who had small amounts of drugs in their possession. They are sons, they are brothers, they're fathers, they're uncles, whose families are still to this day, some of them suffering the consequences. So speak to those families. Why should they vote for you?
One of the things is that in the 80s, we passed 100%, all 100 senators voted for it, a bill on drugs and how to deal with
Oh,
drugs.
the same
It
way
was a
people can
mistake.
support the 14
And they're
words
trying to
because they're
change it
fucking
since then,
stupid.
particularly the portion on cocaine. That's why I've been arguing that, in fact, we should not send anyone to jail for a pure drug offense. They should be going into treatment across the board.
Facts.
That's
This is
what
facts.
we should be spending money. That's why I set up drug courts, which were never funded by our Republican friends. They should not be going to jail for a drug or an alcohol problem. They should be going into
It's not even
treatment.
mental gymnastics because in order
That's
to
what
have
we've
to
been
do the
trying
mental
do.
gymnastics,
That's
you
what
have
I'm
to
going
think.
get done. We're gonna make
And Republicans
American
don't
people
think.
have now seen.
If you're voting
that, in fact, it was a
Republican, you
mistake
don't
to pass
understand
those
politics.
laws relating to drug
You don't
use.
understand
They were not in
politics.
the
If you're
climate
not a
But
millionaire
why
and you're
didn't he
voting
get it done?
Republican, you don't
See,
understand
it's all
politics.
talk, no action with these politicians. Why didn't he get it done? That's what I'm going to do when I become president.
He hasn't
You were
built the
vice
wall yet.
president along with Obama as
The
your
one thing he
president.
ran on isn't even
For 8
done. He hasn't
years.
built the wall
Why
yet.
didn't you get it done? You had 8 years to get it done. Now you're saying you're going to get it done because you're all talk and no action, Jim.
We got a
Your
lot of it
response.
done. We released
didn't get
38,000. We
anything
got
done.
38,000 prisoners left from the.
You got
out-
nothing done.
38,000 prisoners were released from federal prison. There were over 1,000 people who were given clemency. In fact, we're the ones that put in the legislation saying we could look at pattern and practice of police departments and what they were doing, how they were conducting themselves. I could go on, but we began the
Those
process.
DOJ reports
We
were
began
done
the
under
process.
Obama.
We lost an election. That's why I'm running to win back that election and change his terrible policy.
I
Quick
just
response,
asked,
and then we're
I
gonna
just
move
asked
on
one
to climate
question.
change.
Why?
Oh,
didn't
yeah,
you
Hillary
do
ain't in
it
prison.
the 8 years, a short time ago. Why didn't you do it? You just said, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. You put tens
Because-
of thousands of mostly black young men in prison. Now you're saying you're going to undo that. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years with Obama. You know why,
Because-
Joe? Because you're all talk and no action.
All right, Vice President
Because
Biden, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
We had a Republican Congress. That's the answer.
You got to talk them into it, Joe. Sometimes
right.
you got to talk them into it.
We're going to move on
Oh
to
my
the next
God.
section.
Like I
Oh
did
my
with
God.
criminal
Look how
justice
hard.
reform. I had to talk Democrats into it.
Gentlemen,
You did what we
we're running
already
out of
done.
time, so we got to get on to
Okay.
climate change, please. You both have very different visions on climate change. President Trump, you say that environmental regulations have hurt jobs in the energy sector. Vice President Biden, you have said you see addressing climate change as an opportunity to create new jobs. For each
Yes.
of you, how would you both combat climate change and support job
Biden did
growth
go
at
right for the
same
fucking
time?
throat.
Starting with you, President Trump, you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So we have the Trillion Trees program. We have so many different programs. I do love the environment, but what I want
No,
is
you
the
don't.
cleanest, crystal clear water, the cleanest air. We have the best, lowest number in carbon emissions, which is a big standard that
That
I
is
notice
false.
Obama goes with all the time.
That is
Not
fucking
Joe. I
false.
haven't heard Joe use the term because I'm not sure he knows what it represents or means, but I have heard Obama use it. And we have the best carbon emission.
Obama hasn't been
numbers that
president
we've
for
had
4
in
years, my guy.
35 years. Under this administration, we are working so well with industry, but here's what we can't do. Look at China, how filthy it is. Look at Russia. Look at India. It's
So fucking
filthy.
racist.
The air
America
is
is
filthy.
just as filthy.
The Paris Accord, I took us out because we were going
There are parts of this country that are just as filthy, promise.
And we were treated very unfairly. When they put us in there, they did us a great disservice.
Yeah,
They're gonna take
that's
away
right,
our
Kuma. He
businesses.
does love burning
I
the
will
environment
not
for money. That's what he means.
sacrifice Tens of millions of jobs, thousands and thousands of companies because of
OCMD,
the Paris
yep.
Accord. It was so unfair. China doesn't kick in until 2030. Russia
I
goes
think
back
I
to
need to
a
get
low
tested for
standard,
MRSA,
and
just
we
fucking saying the
kicked
words
in right
OCMD
away.
out loud.
It would have destroyed our businesses. So, you ready? We have done an incredible job environmentally. We have the cleanest air, the cleanest water, and the best carbon emission standards
That
we've
is
seen
false.
in many, many years.
Vice President
And we
Biden.
haven't destroyed our industries.
Vice President Biden.
That is
2
also
minutes to
false.
you, uninterrupted.
Climate change, climate warming, global warming is an existential threat to humanity. We have a moral obligation to deal with it. And we're told by all the leading scientists in the world we don't have much time. We're going to pass the point of no return within the next 8 to 10 years. 4 more years of this man eliminating all the regulations that were put in by us to clean up the climate, to limit limit emissions will put us in a position where we're going to be in real trouble. Here's where we have a great opportunity. I was able to get both all the environmental organizations as well as labor, the people worried about jobs, to support my climate plan. Because what it does, it will create millions of new good-paying jobs. We're going to invest in, for example, 50,000 charging stations on our highways so that we can own the electric car market of the future. In the meantime, China
That
is
needs to be
doing that.
done.
We're going to be in a position
China
where we're
is already
going to
doing
see
that.
to it that we're going to take 4 million existing buildings and 2 million existing homes and retrofit them so they don't leak as much energy, saving hundreds of millions of
That
barrels
needs to be
of
done.
oil in the process.
The entire
and creating
energy grid needs to be
significant number of
retrofitted.
jobs. And by the way, the whole idea of what this is all going to do, it's going to create millions of jobs.
It
And
is.
it's going to clean the environment. Our health and our jobs are at stake. That's what's happening. And what right now, by the way, Wall Street firms indicated that my plan will in fact create 18.6 million jobs, 7 million more than his. This is from Wall Street. And I'll create $1 trillion more in economic growth than his proposal does. Not on climate, just on the economy.
President Trump, you're
Today came out and said very strongly, $6,500 will be taken away from families under his plan. That his plan
What
is
is
an
he
economic
talking
disaster.
about, dude?
If you look at what he wants to do, you know,
See, and this
if
is
you
how
look
he
at
games his
his
gullible ass
environmental
base,
plan, You
dude.
know who developed it? AOC plus 3. They know nothing about the climate. I mean, she's got a good line of stuff, but she knows nothing about the climate.
That's funny.
And they're all hopping through hoops for AOC plus 3. Look, their real plan costs $100 trillion.
It's Rashida
If we had
Tlaib,
the
Elon
best
Omar,
year in the
and
history of the
who's the
country,
third?
For 100 years, we would
Somebody help me.
not even come close to a number like that. When he says buildings, they want to take buildings down because they want to make bigger windows into smaller windows. As far as they're concerned, if you had no window, it would be a lovely thing. This is the craziest plan that anybody has ever seen. And this wasn't done by smart people. This wasn't done by anybody. Frankly, I don't even know how it can be good
All right.
politically. They want to spend $100 trillion. That's their real number. He's trying to say it was 6. It's $100 trillion. They want to knock down buildings and build new buildings with little, tiny, small windows. I mean, and many other things.
Okay.
And many other things.
Let me have the Vice President
It
respond,
is
and we're running out of
crazy.
time, and we have a lot
And
more
you'll
questions to
destroy
get
our
to.
country.
So let's hear from the Vice President. I have a number more questions.
I don't know where he comes from. I don't know where he comes up with these numbers.
Queens.
$100 trillion.
I
Give
said
me a
Queens.
break. This plan was, this is plans endorsed by every major environmental group and every labor group. Labor, because they know the future
Yo,
lies.
there you go. Talk that
Future
talk.
lies
Talk that
with
talk.
us being able to breathe, and they know there are good jobs in getting us there. And by the way, the fastest growing industry in America is the solar energy and wind. He thinks wind
Facts.
causes cancer, windmills. It's the fastest growing jobs, and they pay good prevailing wages, 45,
They
50
do.
bucks an hour. We can grow and we can be cleaner if we go the route I'm proposing.
President Trump,
Excuse me.
please
We are
respond, and then I have some
We are
follow-up.
energy independent for the first time. We don't need all of these countries that we had to fight war over because we needed their energy. We are energy independent. I know more about wind than you do. It's extremely expensive. Kills all the birds. It's very
Kills
intermittent,
all the
a lot of
birds.
problems, and they happen to make the windmills in both Germany and China. And the fumes coming up, if you're a believer in carbon emission, the fumes coming up to make these massive windmills is more than anything that we're talking about with natural gas, which is very clean. One
He
of the-
can't even believe
Private
it.
scientists
Solar.
said that.
I love solar, but solar doesn't quite have it yet. It's not powerful yet to,
He said,
to
"Fuck
really
those
run
birds."
our big, beautiful factories that we need to compete with the world. So
False.
it's all a pipe dream.
It is
But
false.
you know what we'll do? We're going to have the greatest economy in the world. But if you want to kill the
All right.
economy, get rid of your oil industry. You want, and what about fracking?
All right,
Now-
let me
now we have to ask
let me
about
allow
fracking.
Vice President
I
Biden to
have
respond.
never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on tape.
I did. Show the tape. Put it on your website.
I'll put it on.
Put it on the website. The fact of the matter is, he's flat lying.
Would you rule out banning
Yo,
fracking?
just straight
Do
called him a
rule out
liar
banning
on
fracking
stage.
Because the answer, we need other.
This shit is getting so
industries
filthy.
to
I love it.
transition to get to
Politics has
ultimately
never been like this.
complete zero
At least,
emissions by
okay.
2025.
Let me not
What
say
I would
that
do with
because
fracking
niggas used to
over
literally
time
fist
is
fight
make
on
sure
the
that
on the
we
court
can
floor.
capture the
Politics has not
emissions
been like this in a
from
long time.
fracking, capture the emissions from gas. We can do that, and we can do that by investing money and doing it. But it's a transition to that.
I have one more question in this pod, and then
Excuse me,
we have.
he was against fracking. He said it. I will show that to you tomorrow. I
Good.
am against fracking. Until he got the nomination, went to Pennsylvania, then he said, but you know what, Pennsylvania? He'll be against it very soon because his party is totally against it.
Fracking on federal land, I said. No fracking
You said
and or oil on
didn't say
federal
Let
land.
me ask President Trump, people of color are much more likely to live near oil refineries and chemical plants. In Texas, there are families who worry the plants near them are making
Yeah, it's
them
crazy
sick.
'cause it's not a
Your
competition. It's
administration
literally
has
just
rolled back
survival.
regulations on these kinds of facilities. Why should these families
Yeah,
be living
Obama and
together 4
Romney
years
was
in
definitely
office?
different.
The
I'm
families
talking
that
about
we're
like
talking
in the
about
early
are
days of the country
employed
where
heavily,
people
and they're
used to
making a lot of
literally
money,
fight
more
in the
money than
Senate.
they've ever made. If
I'm
you
trying to
look
bring
at
that
the
back.
kind of
I'm trying to
numbers
see
that
some
we
old men
produce
duff
for
each other
Hispanic,
with canes.
For black, for Asian, it's 9 times greater the percentage gain than it was under, in 3 years, than it was under 8 years of the 2 of them, to put it nicely. 9 times more. Now, somebody
Biden's giving it back now. They're
statistics
if
that
you've
you're
ever
saying,
seen me
but they're
like
making
battle
a
for the corner,
tremendous amount
that's
of
what they're
money
doing right now. They're trying to corner
economically. We
trap each
saved
other
it,
right now,
and I saved
and they're
it
rolling
again
out the
a number of
corner.
months ago when oil was crashing
Whiffing and
because
rolling
of
out the corner,
pandemic.
corner trapping
We
each other.
saved it. We got, say what you want about relationship, we got Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Russia to
Yep,
cut
cock.
back, way back. We saved our oil industry, and now it's very vibrant again.
All
And
right.
everybody has very inexpensive gasoline. Remember
Vice
that.
President Biden,
Oh my
your
God!
response,
Look how
and then I'm
yo
gonna
Joe
have a
Biden
final
can't even
question
hold
for
in his
both.
laughter.
My response is that those people live on what they call fence lines. He doesn't understand this. They live near chemical plants that, in fact, pollute chemical plants and oil plants. And
Thank you, Joe
refineries
Biden.
that
Thank you,
pollute.
Joe Biden.
I used to live near that when I was growing up in Claymont, Delaware. And all the more oil refineries in Marcus Hook in the Delaware River than there is any place, including in Houston at the time. When my mom get in the car and when there was first frost to drive me to school, turning the windshield wiper, there'd be oil slick in the window. That's why so many people in my state were dying and getting cancer. The fact
That's
is,
crazy.
Those frontline communities, it doesn't matter what
That's
you're paying
fucking
them,
crazy.
It matters how you keep them safe. What do? And you impose restrictions on the pollutions the pollutants coming out of those fence line communities.
Okay, I have one final
Would he
question.
close
It
down
falls-
the oil
It
industry?
falls.
Would you close
it
down the oil
falls-
industry?
Oh my
It's a
God!
transition
And that's
to
his
no
response to
nuclear
that?
gas.
Jesus Christ,
Oh,
dude!
that's a big
Transition.
statement.
It is a big statement
That's a big
because
statement.
I would stop
Why would you do that?
because the oil industry pollutes significantly.
I see.
Here's the deal, but
That's
you
a
can't
big
do that.
statement.
Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time, and I'd stop giving to the oil industry. I'd stop giving them federal subsidies. He won't give federal subsidies to the gas. Excuse me, to solar and wind.
Yeah.
Why are we giving it to oil industry?
We actually do
All
give
right.
it to solar and wind.
We
And
have
that's
one
No, he
the
doesn't.
final
biggest
question.
statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay,
Because
we have
basically
one
what he's
final
saying
question,
is he is
Mr.
going to
President.
destroy the oil industry. Will you remember that, Texas? Will you
Okay.
remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I
Ohio.
have to get to the final question. Vice President Biden.
He takes everything out of context, but the point is, look, we have to move toward a net zero emissions. The first
We
place
do.
to do that by the year 2035 is in energy production. By 2050, totally.
All right. One
Is he gonna
final
get
question
China
to
to
both
do
of
it?
you. No, we're finished with
Is
this.
he
We have
going to
to
get
move on
China
to
to
our
do it?
final question. We
No,
have to
I'm
move
going
on
to
to our final
rejoin Paris
question.
Accord and make China abide by what they agreed to.
All right,
That'll
this
cost you
is
$1
about
trillion.
leadership, gentlemen. And this first question does go to you, President Trump. Imagine this is your inauguration day. What will you say in your address to Americans who did not vote for you? You'll each have 1 minute, starting with you, Mr.
We have to make our country totally successful as it was prior to the plague coming in from China. Now we're rebuilding it, and we're doing record numbers, 11.4 million jobs in a short period of time, etc. But I will tell you, go back. Before the plague came in, just before, I was getting calls from people that were not normally people that would call me. They wanted to get together. We had the best black unemployment numbers in the history of our country. Hispanic, women, Asian. People with
The
diplomas,
unemployment
with
number
no
goes
diplomas,
down when people
MIT
stop looking for
graduates, number
jobs.
one in the
Remember that.
class. Everybody had the best numbers. And you know what? The other side wanted to get together. They wanted to unify. Success is going to bring us together. We are on the road to success. But I'm cutting taxes, and he wants to raise everybody's taxes, and he wants to put new regulations on everything. He
And
will do
dumbass
it.
people
If he
believe
gets in,
that.
you will
Republicans
have a
believe his
depression,
dumb
the
shit,
likes
too.
of which you've never seen. Your 401ks will go to hell, and it'll be a
Your
very,
401ks
very
are
sad
about
day
to
for
go
this country.
bye-bye
All
anyway,
right.
even if he
Vice
gets
President
elected.
Biden, same question to you. What will you say during your inaugural address to Americans who did not vote for you?
I will say, I'm an American president. I represent all of you, whether you voted for me or against me. And I'm going to make sure that you're represented. I'm going to give you hope. We're going to move. We're going to choose science over fiction. We're going to choose hope over fear. We're going to choose to move forward because we have enormous opportunities to make things better. We can grow this economy. We can deal with the systemic racism. And at the same time, we can make sure that our economy is being run and moved and motivated by clean energy, creating millions of new jobs.
Bernie would have been the
And
best
that's
choice.
the fact. That's what we're going to do.
I would rather
And I'm gonna
just
say,
completely
as I said
abolish
at
the United
beginning,
States government, but
what is on
that's
the
not going to
ballot
happen,
here is
obviously.
the character of this country, decency,
Bernie being the
honor,
next best option.
respect, treating people
Next
with
best
dignity,
option, excuse me.
making sure that everyone has an even chance. And I'm going to make sure you get that. You haven't been getting it the last 4 years.
All right, I want to thank you both for a very robust
Trump wouldn't
hour and a
debate
half
Bernie.
of fantastic debate. Really appreciate it. President Trump, former Vice President Joe Biden, thank you to Belmont University for hosting us tonight. And most importantly, thank you to those watching tonight. Election Day is November 3rd. Don't forget to vote. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.
Thank you.
So there you have it, a much more coherent debate compared to that first matchup a few weeks ago. The President of the United States interrupting. They mostly followed the rules, but still focusing in on some of the major differences that they have. The American public clearly has a better appreciation of where these two men stand on some of the most important policy issues of the day. Their family members are coming up on the stage right now.
Oh yeah,
We're gonna watch,
glider
a
gaming.
little bit of
That's the
it
MO
before
for
they vote
Republicans
this year.
is to
But
act
Jake,
like
this
they're going to
was,
raise your taxes
clearly,
insanely because what they're actually
a
trying
much
to do is
different
get
debate
billionaires and
than the
millionaires
first.
to pay no
Yeah,
taxes.
that's right.
And you
Paul,
think that
it
that
was definitely
translates
a
to no
more
taxes or
normal,
lower taxes for
debate.
you.
President
Not
Trump,
you, but I mean
behaved,
average dumbass Republicans.
more
Because
like
of the
a
same
regular
old,
person
same old.
might
Reaganomics,
theoretically.
the trickle down,
I think it's
right?
fair to say
We've
that
been
Trump
waiting for the wealth to
supporters and
trickle down
Republican
for what?
office holders
50 fucking
can
years?
Relax for the night. They can exhale.
Wealth, income inequality is the
he didn't
worst
set
it's ever
himself on
been.
fire tonight like he did at the first debate. I mean, he did lie like Pinocchio, and I'm sure Daniel Dale will get to that in the fact-checking section. But beyond that, it's fair to say I think President Trump.
Oh, they
got in a
fact-check.
couple, clean
Oh, you
hits,
know that the
when it
Republicans
came
are
to
turning
Vice
this shit
President
right
Biden,
off now.
when it came to the 1994 crime bill, when it came to Joe Biden being in politics for so long. He even probably fed some raw meat to his base successfully using Breitbart, Fox lingo that most voters have no idea what he's talking about. But he got those shots in there, however, based in reality, they are.
I'm glad that they're
problem
real
for the
talking about this
president, as I
debate.
see it is twofold. One, Joe Biden did fine. He had a fine performance. He definitely reached the threshold. And given that so much of this election is a referendum on Donald Trump, and he is the underdog, according to polls, Joe Biden is ahead, Joe Biden did nothing to disqualify himself. It was a fine performance. And the second problem is that Joe Biden scored points. He got his licks in on issues that I think might affect voters more when it comes to the coronavirus pandemic, when it comes to health care. And the
I don't
fact
have
that the
water,
Trump
but I'll drink this
administration
fucking
has
tea.
not
I
offered
was
any
just about to
sort
get
of
up to
viable
pee.
alternative to Obamacare. And then there was that rough moment that had to do with the fact that of the
I'll vote
child
for you,
family
Balenciaga
separation
barf bag. It's like, nah,
policy,
'cause I
there
don't
are
vote.
still more than 500 kids that the Trump administration has not been able to place back with the parents whose arms they snatched them from. So I think at the end of the day, Dana, the race has been fairly stable.
I got a
think,
pee-pee. I'll be
you know,
right back.
There might be some movement when it comes to soft Trump supporters who are unsure, feeling like, well, that's a more normal person than the last debate. And maybe even some points scored in terms of getting black men who really hate that 1994 crime bill and their families on board, perhaps. But I don't see anything that will change the trajectory of the race in a significant way. What do you think?
No, I agree with you. Look, we all described in colorful terms what we thought of the first presidential debate, and this was a debate. It's what Americans should expect when they are watching two people who want to be the leader of their country, the leader of their free world, to try to figure out where they stand on policy issues and where they are when it comes to their character. As you said, there were a lot of things that Daniel will get to that were just flat out lies, and they got off course talking about things that probably most people don't care about, especially in where we are in a pandemic and in very, very tough times. But Donald Trump listened to his advisors this time. I talked to a lot of them going into the debate. They told me exactly what they were trying to get him to do, which is much like they did the last time. He didn't listen last time. He did this time, for the most part. But you know what? So did Joe Biden. He did what he practiced to do.
Yeah, and you know, honestly, this debate was just the same content from the first debate, except that now you can understand what people are saying.
Basically.
And so in that respect, it was better because
Let's get these
people
fact
could,
checks going.
You know,
I'm with it.
really
I'm with it.
evaluate the differences between what was being
Bonk
said.
check? Can I
But
get some
in terms
bonks
of
in
the
chat?
substance of what was being said, the president fell into some of the same patterns, continued to downplay the virus and the effect of this upswing that the country is currently in right now, heading into the holiday season. He kept doing something that I think Joe Biden actually tried to exploit, which is dividing the country into red states and blue states, repeatedly talking about the red states or the blue states are doing this. And
The
blue
Democrat-run
states-
cities,
Democrats,
yeah.
Your Democrat
Democrats
governors.
want
Yeah.
that. And if you watch the ads that are on television for the Biden campaign right now, the message right now is not about, you know, coronavirus. It's not about fracking. It's not about any of those things. It's about unity. It's about bringing the country together. And you saw Joe Biden repeatedly saying, I'm not going to do that. I think the president really walked back into that trap, because if you listen to him day to day, like we all do, you hear the same content that he gives off in all of his interviews, in his media gaggles. It happened on the debate stage in a calmer tone, but it still isn't bridging the gap with the voters in the middle.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that the president has been lying about the coronavirus pandemic since February. I mean, just straight up lying about it. It's going to be over by Easter, you know. I
Right.
could go through them, but you get the point. And we cover this every day. The three of us and all of the journalists at CNN cover this. And the truth of the matter is the president did it again tonight. He said, we're turning the curve. We're not going into a dark winter. The vaccine's going to be here in weeks. None of this is true. Every health expert, including
Continue to criticize Fauci.
Yeah, every health expert, including those in his administration, Anderson, every single one says what Joe Biden said tonight, and they all say that what President Trump said tonight to the American people is not true. And this is the fundamental problem with the president's pitch, is that the country can see that he's lying about the pandemic.
Yeah, and so many people in this country have already voted and will vote by Election Day. Well, let's go to our team standing by. David Axelrod, just for everybody's quick take, what did you think?
Look, fundamentally,
Oh, shit,
if
they
you're
got
ahead
Van Jones.
and you get a draw, you win. And both of them were better than they were last time. But I thought that Joe Biden held his own, and that's all he had to do. The trajectory of this race did not change, and as Abby pointed out, he did some big business in terms of speaking as an American president, and swiping at Trump for being so partisan and talking about red and blue states and so on. I thought those were powerful points, and it's one of the reasons why he is in the position he's in.
You know, I think that I agree with David. I think that Biden was sharper tonight than he was at the last debate. Maybe that was because he wasn't given much of a chance. But I do think he scored some points really against against Trump, particularly on immigration. When they were talking about the children in cages, what struck me was when Trump said, they are so well taken care of.
Yeah.
Total lie.
It was just, well, A, it's a lie, and B, the statement itself is just so stunning to me that I almost couldn't believe that someone would really say that. And then, you know, I'm just looking over the whole debate. Overall, what the president was trying to do is present himself as the outsider, talking about you politicians, when in fact, he's been running the country for the last 4 years. And I thought that was pretty striking also, because it also isn't true.
Senator Santorum, he did a lot of what you said he was going to do.
Yeah, he sure did. He delivered. You guys watched a different debate than I did, and certainly from everything I'm hearing from my folks, I mean, you guys watched a very different debate. I think Donald Trump was right on his game. I actually think that he completely skewered Joe Biden. You mentioned the point where he called Biden a politician looking in the camera. I think every time after that, everyone thought about that line, that here he is just looking in the camera, being a typical politician. The other thing, and I'll be curious to see how many people pick up on this. Joe Biden, at the end of the thing, looking at his watch. If you recall the campaign,
I noticed
with Georgia,
that, Nixon.
and I think that's what a lot of people were saying, that Joe Biden was bobbly, a little shaky at the end, and looking at his watch to see when this thing would be over. I think that's going to be a meme out of this debate.
Van?
Hey, look, I think Donald Trump did his best ever, and his best was not good enough. Bottom line, it was the same stuff, just with a little bit less volume on it, but no plan for the future. A big apology for a bunch of failures, and then smacking it at Joe Biden all the time. But he literally did nothing that he hasn't always done. He sounded better, he looked better, but there was nothing there. There was nothing there. And some of the stuff he said, I agree with Gloria. The shocking lack of humanity that he demonstrated, talking about those children, and no apology. I mean, a human being just would have said, hey, I can't sleep at night thinking about those kids. I'm doing everything I can for those kids. For him to sit up there and lie and say that they're being treated well was horrific. It was inhuman. And I disagree with you, Senator. Whenever I just disagree with you. Whenever Joe Biden looked in the camera and cut through the crap and started talking about real stuff, I think it did land.
Senator?
Number one, we're not keeping kids in cages anymore, and
Cut him right off. Get him the fuck out of here. Shut him the fuck up. Fucking idiot. Hell yeah. Got him the fuck out of there. That fucking Trud senator was in the middle of saying some dumb shit, and they cut his shit right off. I'm sure Republicans are gonna be ass mad about that. But yeah, that was it. That wasn't nearly as painful as the first one, but it was still pretty fucking terrible. So to wash the taste of that out of our mouth, shout out to Filipino Grandpa. Let's check out something about Philippine special sharks really quick.
Coming up next on Jonathan Bird's Blue World, Jonathan goes deep in search of thresher sharks.
There are many tall tales in the ocean, and not all of them are true. But when it comes to sharks, there's only one truly tall tale, and that's the tail on the thresher shark. One of the tallest
Actually, I don't know if
around.
this is TOS. I might not be able to watch this. Let's look at Rambo, because I know Rambo came out. I watched it earlier, but we can watch it together again.
I'm taking you off the board.
Give it your best.
Okay. This is not it. This is so stupid. Let's try this again, because I guess this is the only way we're going to be able to pull this off.
I'm taking you off the board.
Give it your best shot, soldier.
It'll be right between the eyes. Fight!
His moves look so fucking brutal. That army crawl looks wild. That's wild. That's wild. Claymore though, I'm sick. That's wild.
Finish him.
This fatality is wild. Just rips that shit out.
Fatality. Rambo wins.
Wild. Yeah, that was pretty sick. I kind of want to peep the fatal and the fatality again real quick. 'Cause that was tough. Yeah, I'm down for Rogue. Yeah, Stallone yelling because he's got the... That shit's fucking hilarious.
Fatality.
That shit's so brutal.
Wins.
I can't wait for them to release Melina. Adrian. Ooh, okay. What's going on with
She
this?
lost her fight to keep them secret, and now hundreds of pages of documents detailing Ghislaine Maxwell's answers about Jeffrey Epstein's alleged sex trafficking network are now public. This all stems from a civil lawsuit filed against Maxwell in 2015. The victim alleges that Maxwell helped Epstein and other men abuse her for years. News 4's Jonathan Deans is live in the newsroom now with what these documents reveal about some high-profile figures. Jonathan?
Chuck, the names of other men she was asked about were blacked out in today's transcripts, but Maxwell's repeated denials and explanations are new and raise some new questions after she fought for years to keep these
So they
documents
blacked out the
from public
names.
view. In the deposition, Ghislaine Maxwell repeatedly denied any wrongdoing, and she appears to repeatedly evade direct,
Ghislaine
even
Maxwell.
harsh questions about whether she helped Jeffrey Epstein sexually abuse minors. I never saw any inappropriate underage activities with Jeffrey, ever. The deposition released today, part of a past lawsuit by Virginia Roberts Giuffre. She says Maxwell recruited her when she was young for sex with Epstein and for sex with others, like Prince Andrew. The prince denies it, as does Maxwell. Maxwell says Giuffre's claim she was sexually abused in her London bathtub shows Giuffre is lying. The tub is too small. Her entire ludicrous and absurd story of what took place in my house is an obvious lie. But federal prosecutors say Maxwell is the liar, and they charged her with perjury in addition to counts of trafficking minors to Epstein for sex.
Oh,
Maxwell
shit.
even says she never even saw Epstein with minor girls at any of his estates. Maxwell says her job was to hire cooks, maids, and pilots, all of adult age. I cannot tell you what Jeffrey's story is. I'm not able to. NBC investigative producer Sarah Fitzpatrick.
The most important thing about today's deposition is that this is the first time that the public has ever heard from Ghislaine Maxwell in her own words.
Epstein killed himself last year in the MCC awaiting trial. Questions have swirled about his past connections with the rich and powerful. Epstein's seen in the
They
past
show him with Trump? That's
in
wild.
Palm Beach, and former President Clinton flew on his jets. And a lot of questions continue to swirl about why financiers gave Epstein millions, including Victoria's Secret magnate Leslie Wexner.
Yeah, she about to get
Billionaire
Epsteined.
Leon Black in the spotlight this week. Black's firm, Apollo Global Management, said it will conduct an investigation into Black's past financial dealings with Epstein. Black has called Epstein's conduct despicable and says he regrets having any involvement with him.
We still don't know how Jeffrey Epstein made his money and why so many powerful people were drawn to him and gave him such significant amounts of money.
In that deposition, Maxwell says she knew Epstein had become a registered sex offender after a 2008 Florida conviction. But she says she stayed friends with him because she was being thoughtful during Epstein's time of need. And for her work, she said Epstein paid her, quote, a little, about $500,000 a year. Chuck?
All right, Jonathan.
Let's see this.
Bring in Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell.
Look at him. He don't have no neck. Look at this turtle-looking motherfucker.
This is the 15th.
He looks like. Hold up. Stop. Who saw? Hold on. Let me pull this up really quick because. Or no, was he from Red Dragon? There we go. Mason Verger. Look at this motherfucker. Look. Now you tell me, you look at him and tell me that he doesn't look like...
Do you have faith?
Look at that. You see that? Now. I'm just saying.
To vote for. What are your impressions of her?
Stunningly, amazingly intelligent, a wonderful life story as well. It's hard to think of any nominee we've had in the past who was any better than this one, and we've had some great ones, like Justice Scalia, Justice Thomas. She's in the same class and is going to serve with great distinction on the court for many years to come.
What did you make of the Democrats today deciding to boycott and not even show up in the committee to have a vote?
Well, it made the meeting shorter because we know if they'd showed up, they would have been speaking for a long time.
Indeed. Well, I know that you've scheduled the vote, I believe, for Monday. I do want to ask you about this because you've been in the Senate for a while. You understand lawmaking. You care about it. And there was many exchanges during her confirmation hearing in which she kept saying that Congress needs to do a better job of writing the laws so that it doesn't always end up in the court. Take a look at this exchange with her and Senator Cruz.
Who's the bigger monster?
Judge
Good
Barrett,
question.
In your view, is it the responsibility of a federal judge to implement policy
at this
positions that they might happen to agree
Zodiac
with?
killer ass motherfucker.
That's your job, not a judge's.
So I wondered what you thought about that because there's another chance for another Congress starting in a couple of months. I mean, would that message ring true to some of your colleagues?
Well, look, I'm sure we don't do a perfect job of writing laws, and they do end up in the courts. But what Judge Barrett was pointing out, that the job of the judge is to basically try to discern what the plain meaning of the words that we wrote were. I expect sometimes we make that challenging. Her mentor, Justice Scalia, used to say, if you want to run for office, if you want to make policy, why don't you run for office? That's not what we do here in the courts. So I think she believes in judicial restraint. in making your very best effort as a judge to try to read the law and apply it to the facts.
There was an issue during her confirmation with the Biden campaign refusing to answer for a while what they would do if they agreed with many on the left to do court packing, meaning adding more seats and then packing those in with liberals if he were to be elected. Joe Biden came up with his answer today. He said he would come up with one before the election, and that was to create a commission to study not just the court but also the Constitution. And in my experience, and I wonder what you think, that commission is sometimes just another word for refusing to answer the question.
Yeah, look, I mean, Justice Ginsburg had it right. She was asked about this last year. She said 9 is the right number. She pointed out that Franklin Roosevelt tried to pack the court. It was a political disaster for him, not the right thing to do, and the perfect way to destabilize the judiciary. Court packing ought to be completely unacceptable. It was when Joe was chairman.
It wasn't unacceptable when you guys packed the fucking Republicans in there.
Hedging. The answer is yes, he's open to it. And the American people overwhelmingly think this is a bad idea on a bipartisan basis.
How much do you think that the Amy Coney Barrett confirmation vote, and even just her becoming a Supreme Court justice, will matter to some of these really close Senate races that you're watching very closely?
Well, she's certainly a great asset. She was picked by a Republican president who's on the ballot. She's going to be confirmed by a Republican Senate whose majority is also on the ballot. We're proud of this nomination. If it proves to be a political asset for us, that's great. We know it's going to be an important asset for our country.
Does it matter to you at all that the Democrats are accusing you of hypocrisy for holding this vote in an election year?
No, it doesn't bother me at all. Look, the answer to that is if the shoe was on the other foot, they'd be doing exactly the same thing.
We did not.
Is there anything that
Obama waited
tonight to help Senate Republicans be able to try to make these races in these battleground states even closer, at least try to help them pull ahead?
Well, I think a good debate performance by the president would be helpful to him and helpful to us, and we're all pulling for him to have a good performance tonight. We'll all be watching
this is
and
before the debate.
Hoping for the best.
Why am I even watching this dumb shit then?
What about the COVID relief bill? I know that
I missed this part. I must have been talking out of the room or something.
We're going to talk about immigration now, gentlemen, and we're going to talk about families within this context. Mr. President, your administration, you've since reversed your zero-tolerance policy, but the United States can't locate the parents of more than 500 children. So how will these families ever be reunited?
Children are brought here by coyotes and lots of bad people, cartels, and they're brought here, and they used to use them to get into our country. We now have as strong a border as
GD
we've ever
Metal,
had.
no MK
We're
today.
over
I'm about to play some Rogue
400 miles of
Company. I'm
brand
going to end
new
this stream and start
wall.
up
You see
another
the
one
numbers,
for
and
some
we let
MK.
people in, but they have to come in legally, and they come in through
But
merit.
how will you
But let
reunite
me
these
just tell
kids
you,
with their
Let me just
families,
tell you,
Mr.
they
President?
built cages. You know, they used to say, I built the cages, and then they had a picture in a certain newspaper, and it was a picture of these horrible cages, and they said, look at these cages. President Trump built them, and then it was determined they were built in 2014. That was him. Very hard. But a lot of these kids come out without the parents. They come over through cartels and through coyotes and through gangs.
Vice President Biden, let me bring you into this
525
conversation. Quick response, and then another question to you.
These 500 plus kids came with parents. They separated them at the border to make it a disincentive to come to begin with. Big, real tough. We're really strong. And guess what? They cannot, it's not coyotes didn't bring them over. Their parents were with them. They got separated from their parents. And it makes us a laughing stock and violates every notion of who we are as a nation.
Let me ask you a follow-up
Kristen,
question.
they did it. We changed the policy.
Your response
they
to that?
They did it. We changed.
did not
They built the
separate
cages.
they,
who built the cages, Joe?
Let's talk about what
Who
we're
built the
talking about.
cages,
Let's
Joe?
talk about what we're talking about. What happened? Parents were ripped, their kids were ripped from their arms and separated. And now they cannot find over 500 sets of those parents, and those kids are alone. Nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. It's criminal. It's criminal.
Let me ask
Kristen,
you
I will
about
say this.
immigration.
They went
10
down.
seconds,
We
and then
brought
I need to ask
reporters,
you.
everything. They are so well taken care of. They're in facilities that were so clean.
But some of
and
them
have gotten
haven't been
such good.
reunited
But
with their
just ask
families.
one question. Who
He really
built the
did say
cages?
this.
I'd love you to ask him that.
Oh
Who
my
built the
God.
cages?
Let me.
Hey,
I must have been
NBC
talking
News
or something.
viewers, thanks for checking out our.
That's nuts. That's really nuts. Ow. So, I guess that's it for this stream. I'm going to do, like I said, I'm going to, in about 15, 20 minutes, what I'm going to do now here is grab a quick snack, take a quick pee-pee, do all that good stuff, grab another water bottle. I'll be back in about 15 to do the RNH stream for Rogue Company with Big Richard Lizardman and hopefully Anubis and Fade Runner, whoever else wants to join us. But thanks for hanging out for the debates. As painful as that fucking god-awful debacle was, grab a quick water. Yeah. If you saw my previous stream, the tournament stream, thanks for watching. I apologize. I got so tilted, but I was upset. I was cheated. I should have placed higher, but it is what it is. I guess I'll try again next week. It's the only thing I can do since they closed the ticket and refused to overturn that loss. But hey, can't win them all, right? So thanks for watching. If you're calling it a night after this, have a good night. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Thanks for watching. I'll be streaming tomorrow. I stream every day, Monday through Friday, same time, same place. Sometimes I start as early as 3 p.m., but most of the time I start around 5 or 6 p.m. So great time to come through. That's Eastern Standard Time, of course. Mondays is Mortal Mondays. I do Mortal Kombat 11 as well as playing some death metal and grindcore. Thursdays is usually the Soul Calibur 6 stream. And I just do whatever else in between there. I'd like to get into doing more political content, but I'm thinking I want to pick a day. I think Tuesday is going to be the politics day, where I just kind of focus more on unless it's something live like this, like a debate or something, I want to focus more on the politics on Tuesday, because I would like to really get into my personal feelings on shit, because you guys have probably heard me say before, I don't really vote. I don't believe in the United States government. I don't believe in this particular system that we exist right now. I don't support the status quo. I think it's bullshit, but I can get into that another time. Have a good night, everyone. For the rest of you sticking around, I will be back in about 15, 20 minutes to do the, Super Tuesday, to do the RNH Rogue Company stream. So if you're